What is up, insaners, and welcome to another deadline stream, another video, another deadline is already here, and we are. I mean, this doesn't even feel that the last game week was over and got over. We just had a couple of days, and we are back with game week 5. I think this is gonna be the regular trend or the usual trend in terms of what's gonna happen in the coming time. And I think let me just fix my screen. I think I can see something very weird in my screen. Let me just fix it, and I'll just, guys, give me a minute and I'll just fix this thing, and hopefully it should be better. Sorry for that interruption. Welcome again. Welcome to all of you. I hope you guys are ready. There's so much to discuss. There is so much to talk about in today's stream. We've got some information, we've got some news about a few players, some injury updates, and then there's this curveball that FPL has thrown us. It is Reece James. He's mostly not going to start again. It's nothing is confirmed yet. Nothing is official yet. According to whatever sources we've been kind of watching on Twitter, there have been Twitter accounts who have been tweeting about him not being available. There have been a certain number of people saying that he hasn't trained or he wasn't pictured in training. So I think there are a couple of doubts in terms of what to do, etc. And we'll come and kind of deep dive into it. But welcome again. I hope you've had a good couple of days. We're back again with another deadline, and feel free to add any questions. Feel free to ask as much as you can, because I also kind of would do some research on the go, and probably we'll get more idea, and we'll probably make some informed decisions together. I'm pretty much set on my team, and I'm going to talk about it when I talk about it. But hello to all of you. Hey Nigel, hello to you. Welcome to the stream. You've shared your team. We'll quickly look at it as well. So your team is basically Ramsdale in goal. You have Trent, Cancelo, James. In your midfield, you have Salah, Rodrigo, Gordon, Gundogan, Andres Pereira, Haaland, and Jesus. In terms of your subs, I mean, it's pretty much standard. One free transfer, 1 million in the bank. Um, I think James is again somebody who, if you want to take him out this week, I mean, you can possibly think of it. It's not a confirmed injury. I mean, it's a confirmed, might be a confirmed absence, but it's not a confirmed long term absence. People are saying it might be precautionary. He might not be out for a long time, and I think that is where now the decision is pretty interesting, because this is a small opportunity, small window that has opened up. So maybe you think of replacing him with maybe an Arsenal defender. I mean, you already have an Arsenal defender, so maybe either go for a Brighton defender. I mean, you can go for Dunk. I think Weltman is probably a 50-50 right now. I mean, there could be a chance that Weltman starts, but I think Dunk is an option. Otherwise, I mean, if you're okay holding James, which I am personally doing for my own team, I think it's a pretty solid team. Gordon is an interesting one because, I mean, Everton are facing Leeds. There are chances that Everton probably can score. They haven't really looked very promising in attack, and I mean, they are clearly missing a goal scorer or somebody who can score those goals in terms of whenever they create chances. And Gordon is typically not that. So I think that'll be interesting. But yeah, I mean, you can even play Shar. I mean, if he starts, I think that's also an option. But you can absolutely save the transfer as well. So I think it's an interesting dilemma for you, because you have a certain Reece James in your team. Um, Hey Brian, hello to you. Captaincy is a nightmare. It kind of is, but I think there are two standard options this week. But yeah, I mean, choosing the best possible option in those two options, I think that's gonna be really interesting, because they're very close. I mean, when I talk about captaincy, it's ideally gonna be between Mo Salah and Erling Haaland. And of course, some people might say that you can also go for a Gabriel Jesus, and that's an absolutely fair shout. Even somebody like a Harry Kane is a fair shout this week. I mean, if you want to go differential, then there is a KDB as well. So it is kind of a nightmare. But yeah, if your mind is kind of set between two options, at least you kind of filter it and just have those two to choose from. But in my mind, I think it's between those two. Currently on Salah, as I am as well. Salah is captain at the moment just because of the fact that he possibly has a chance of playing more minutes than a Haaland. I mean, there's a lot of speculation around Haaland, and for those of you who probably not aware, in the press conference that Pep had, I mean, he hardly gave any information. He just said, when he was asked about Haaland's minutes and his start and whether Alvarez is going to start, he just mentioned that you will see tomorrow. And that's the worst possible news to give to FPL managers or people playing this game, because you can't really take anything from that, right? So, I mean, there's still a 50-50 chance. I mean, those kind of comments just makes me, that's a very personal opinion that I have. it kind of makes me think that maybe he's not going to start, and he's just kind of diverting that attention from Haaland not starting, and because there will be more follow up questions and all of that stuff. So maybe he doesn't start, maybe he gets off the bench, and that's why captaincy for me. I mean, yes, Haaland is still a good option. He's a risky option because we don't know how many minutes is he gonna play. But again, there is no app. Then there's no doubt in terms of Haaland being an FPL pick, or whether we should hold Haaland and all that kind of conversation. But yeah, captaincy. That's why I'm also a little bit more certain about Haaland. Captain Haaland, as I mentioned, risky option. If you can absolutely take that chance, take that risk, with the fact that he might get benched, I mean, that's absolutely fine. I mean, you can absolutely, make him as captain, but there's a certain element of risk involved. It is risky just because of the minutes. His fixture is definitely slightly better than what Liverpool are having at the moment for this week. There is also a chance that Haaland maybe comes at the last 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, and he maybe scores a hat trick. So there is a chance of him getting a haul, but minutes is just what, kind of makes me go towards a safer Salah. Who to captain? I've been mentioning about captaincy. So if you want to go safe, go Salah. If you want to take a bit of a risk, then go Haaland. If you don't have Haaland, or if you don't want to take that risk, maybe you can try for KDB as well. If you, let's say, don't want the Man City mids and you don't want to do something similar to what everybody is doing, then you have Jesus as well. I mean, Aston Villa are a really really average defense at the moment. They have all the ingredients of conceding goals, which is what we want from our strikers to do in games. And Jesus has proven already that he's a great option, great FPL option. He's a striker who can score goals. He will give you chances. He will give you assists as well. So there's a lot of potential with Gabriel Jesus and his captaincy option. Of course, he's not been talked about as much as a Salah or a Haaland because of those fixtures. But I still feel Aston Villa can concede 3 or 4 goals against Arsenal. I mean, there is a recipe for disaster for Gerrard's team here. Hey Rajshekhar, hello to you. Welcome to the stream. James for Stones. Double Man City defense looks good next to. I mean, Stones is also a very short term pick because I don't think so. Nathan Ake is out for a very long time. So if you want to take a short term punt, maybe Stones is an option. I mean, he could be nailed for the next 3 or 4 maybe game weeks because there's European fixtures as well. Champions League is of course starting, so Ake is definitely going to come back into the side, and I don't think so. It's a long term injury, to be very honest. So it's an option for sure, but it's not a very long term option. Maybe it can give you a couple of clean sheets in the near future because Man City have decent fixtures. I mean, Forest, Villa, Tottenham, Wolves, Man United. I can at least see at least a couple of clean sheets, if not more. So short term option for sure, but just be aware that he could get benched or he could maybe play the Champions League games, and just have a transfer ready or maybe somebody on your bench ready in case if that sort of a rotation happens. Who would you start? Trippier, Da Silva, Pereira. So Trippier's facing Liverpool, which is going to be tricky. Da Silva again is a decent option, has an okay fixture. I mean, Wolves, not Wolves. My bad. Um, Sorry, Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace away. Crystal Palace at home is a good fixture for Palace. So that's going to be a bit tricky. We don't really expect Da Silva to give a lot of FPL returns and all that stuff. And because of that reason, I think Pereira is still a decent option to go for. He's playing Brighton at home, so it's a away fixture for Brighton. Brighton are traditionally very strong at home. They have a solid defense still. I mean, the defense is still going to be very very tight and solid. So there is a chance that maybe Pereira blanks, but out of all these three options, I still feel the most potential or the most attacking potential for this particular game week. I think it still lies with Andres Pereira for this week, and that's why I'm also so my first player on my bench was Bailey, and now I've shifted that because high chances that James is probably not going to start. I'm still not going to take him out. I mean, it doesn't really matter because if even if I put him on the bench, I don't think so it really makes a huge difference. Yes, I mean you can say that player who's probably going to start, but I think that's fine. If James is not traveled, if he's injured, I mean of course he's not going to play. So I already have a bench player ready in Pereira, and I think Bailey also maybe could at least get a single solitary point, if not if he doesn't start the game, etc. So I think I'm okay there. Zinchenko and James, sorry, both absent. Zinchenko again, I mean nothing is been told or mentioned by the club. Whatever we know as of now is that James has not traveled, has not been pictured in training. There might be a slight injury that he has. it doesn't look like a long-term injury. But yeah, I mean, there are high chances that he's not going to start this one, and that's why suddenly people are kind of panicking in terms of what to do with James. Zinchenko is an interesting one because Arteta didn't say that he's out for sure. I mean, there are chances that he can return. There will be a late test that will be done to identify if Zinchenko can play. Thomas Partey is not playing. Eleni is not playing, so there could be a chance. I mean, we've seen Zinchenko playing in midfield as well, so there could be a chance that where Tierney plays as a left back and then Zinchenko drops in midfield. I mean, I, I don't really see that happening, to be very, very honest. But yeah, I mean, chances are that Zinchenko should be on the bench, might not start the game, but doesn't look like he's possibly fully out of this fixture. Hey Stephen, here Poor. Stephen, you're saying that I'm holding James and this is first sub and don't think anyone is worth a -4, especially if he only misses. That's the point, right? I mean, that's the whole dilemma that a lot of people now have, because if you had a couple of free transfers, if you were anyways not very confident of James, which could be a possibility for a lot of people, then again this maybe makes your thinking a little bit more concrete. But I think panicking with this situation, panicking with this news that James is suddenly a bad pick and you should obviously sell him and he's an absolute sell. I don't agree to that. I mean, a lot of people would. This is a very undivided or divided sort of a question, right? Where people would have split opinions. I'm of the opinion that it's okay until unless there is no injury confirmed news that James is out for a longer period of time, or he's absent for a decent amount of time. I don't think so. I'll personally take him out. Yes, of course, if we still get an information that maybe he misses the next 2, 3, 4 odd games, then of course next week with those two additional free transfers, I can absolutely make that switch, because the kind of defenders I'm looking at the moment are maybe somebody from a Brighton. Looking at Dunk, for example, I don't think so. I mean, of course, a lot of people can still think about getting in Perisic, but I think that getting Perisic in the team is kind of passed by at least a week or so, because he didn't get a haul in the last game. But I think with now Champions League games coming up, there could be a chance that he starts majority games in the Premier League, but he's not going to play, let's say, more than 60 odd minutes, 70 minutes. And then, of course, he's probably not going to play every Premier League game as well, because the turnaround time is also quite less. So chances are that probably Perisic gets benched in at least one, maybe even two games in the next three, especially if he's or at least Conte sees him playing in that Champions League team, in the Champions League lineup, and which I think would be, or looks like the high priority, or looks like the priority for at least Perisic and his minutes. So I think I mean, not a lot of options, nobody worth taking a hit this week. I mean, we've seen that even the premium defenses, top defenses, can concede goals. So yeah, I personally don't think so. It's really a transfer that I would want to make, especially for a hit. You have two free transfers, Rajshekhar, and you've mentioned Zinchenko to Cucurella, James to Perisic. I think Cucurella looks okay. Chilwell is still not fit, or as fit as probably what Tuchel would want, and I don't think so. Maybe he's gonna start the next few. I mean, he could get minutes, but I don't see him starting the next few. So Cucurella is fine if you want to take out Zinchenko. Cucurella is fine. James to Perisic is something I personally don't really like too much. It's a very risky option. There could be a chance that he might just play one or two games in the next 3 or 4 fixtures. So yeah, it's a very, very risky move. I think Zinchenko is probably it's better to probably just downgrade Zinchenko to maybe a Saliba, for example, if you wanna go maybe to a Gabriel as well. I mean, there are options to go for. I feel between Saliba and Gabriel, as Faryaz has also asked, I think it's not really too much to choose from, because both of them could be threat from set pieces. There is I mean, the kind of goal Saliba scored is not going to happen week on week, so we're not going to get those kind of goals scored by Saliba. But there's still a chance that both of them could be threat from set pieces. Arsenal have looked decent from set pieces, and both of them, the way they play, the kind of the amount of passes they make in the game, in a certain game, combine that with interceptions, blocks, etc. I think it all sounds really good from a bonus point potential as well. So if you can save that much money and kind of get similar returns, why not take that chance, right? So I think out of both the options, both are good, but I think if you are looking for the value option, I think it has to be Saliba, because it's not that Gabriel is providing something very, very different which a Saliba cannot provide, right? So get in Saliba. save some money and then probably use that money to make certain upgrades. Let's say if you are just falling short by point 0.1, point 0.2 sort of a price in terms of getting a different player in midfield or attack, then I think it's absolutely worth it, right? So I think Saliba is okay. I have one free transfer, but still have Robbo. Not sure just to roll him or move him to Saliba and get in Tony next week. I mean, you can get in Tony this week as well. I mean, yes, it's Crystal Palace. It's probably going to be a tough fixture, but I think maybe you can just downgrade Robertson. I mean, downgrading Robertson against Newcastle, you can do that if you're making upgrades this week. But if you're just not making any upgrades, if you're just keeping that much cash, I mean, you can even do that next week. Though it's Liverpool versus Everton, and I think Liverpool generally have a really, really good record against Everton, and there's a chance that maybe he starts against Everton. But yeah, considering what we've seen so far, that Tsimikas is taking off minutes from Robertson, there are high chances that maybe Robertson gets a complete rest, and because of that reason, I'm not very, very confident of the Robertson pick in terms of how Liverpool are also playing. Most of their attacks and a lot of their attacking play is coming through Trent, and that's why we see him. I mean, giving us attacking returns, even if he's not getting a clean sheet. And then we have Luis Diaz as well, who kind of drifts wide, also comes in the, and takes a central position. And I just feel probably Robertson is not as good in terms of attacking threat, in terms of attacking play as a Trent right now. And I think there's a solid case to be made for selling Robertson. So yeah, I mean, if you're not making any upgrades, maybe just play him against Newcastle. It could be a decent game, but if you plan to get in Tony, I think it's a good week to do that, especially when you have two free transfers. Best replacements for Zinchenko between 4.5 to 5.1 million. Already have a Brighton defensive asset, Sanchez. If you are looking at Zinchenko's replacement, as I mentioned earlier, you can possibly go for Saliba. If you don't want to go for Saliba, then we'll just quickly check. I mean, Brighton is of course the next place to go. But in case if you don't want to go to that price category, let's just quickly filter this out on the FPL website. I mean, there's White as well, but I would still prefer Saliba. I think he's a better option to go for. I don't really see any other, viable options. I mean, you could go for a United asset, but again, United, we can't really say that United are all of a sudden going to keep clean sheets. Dallo looks decent, but I still won't personally go there. Uh, Going for a Brentford defender, I'm still not very sold. I mean, Henry is one option, but I still feel Saliba is probably the better option to go for here. And personally, if you have the likes of and if you want to play this defender for most weeks, I don't see an option for going for a Patterson or going for a Neko Williams. I think I mean, returns are not guaranteed. They don't look like teams who will keep a lot of clean sheets. So I think I think definitely Saliba is the standard option to go for. You can even possibly look at Newcastle, but I mean, looking at a Newcastle defense, I would still want to get a Trippier because of the additional attacking threat that he gets, and I don't see any other options in there, to be very, very honest. So I think, I mean, Saliba is I think a good pick. Saliba, Gabriel, as I mentioned, go Saliba, save that money. Not much of a difference between their potential. Both are good for bonus points. Both will give some attacking threat or some goal threat in terms of set pieces. So I think Saliba can be good, and he can also help you save some money. I feel Cucurella has more attacking potential than Saliba, Gabriel. I mean, depends, right? If Cucurella plays on that left wing back position, I mean, yes, there is a chance that he can get more attacking potential. This week, possibly he's a better option, but again, just don't look at 1 week. Just look at the bigger picture in terms of what you want to do. When are you wildcarding? For how long do you want this particular option? Because based on that, I think your decision may or may not change, right? Because there are chances that Chilwell could also play. For this week, it doesn't look like that, but because we know that Koulibaly is playing for sure this week. So it's possibly, going to be Koulibaly, Silva, and Aspilicueta if James is not there. And maybe Loftus Cheek can play on one side and Cucurella plays on the other. The other option is Chilwell starts and then Cucurella plays as a left centre back. So that's also a switch, that can happen. But yeah, I mean, for 1 week, Cucurella maybe could be better, but yeah, overall, I think the kind of value that Saliba would provide, again, if you don't have anything else to do in that additional money, right? I mean, if you're not really using that anywhere, if it doesn't really come to your use, or I mean, you probably don't want it, I think Cucurella is okay. I have two free transfers. Should I remove Trippier and Neto for Saliba and Harrison? Duncan Rodrigo. I think Duncan Rodrigo looks like a better option to go for. Though having said that, I don't think so. Trippier and Neto are possible. I mean, Trippier, yes, he has a tough fixture. So if you're only looking at Game Week 5 in isolation, maybe you would possibly think of removing him. But overall, I think Trippier has decent games or decent fixtures ahead, and I think there is merit in holding Trippier. He definitely provides attacking threat. Newcastle can keep clean sheets. It's not that they are still a bad defense or a worse defense. I mean, they can, yes, they've looked a little bit open at the back in certain games, but they can absolutely keep clean sheets. And if you look at fixtures for Newcastle, I mean, Liverpool is definitely a tough game, and it's Palace, West Ham, Bournemouth, Fulham, Brentford. So there could be a couple of clean sheets in there, especially against Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth have looked really, really bad. But yeah, I mean, going for somebody like a Dunk, you will get Fulham again. Fulham can score, Leicester can score as well. Bournemouth, Palace, then they have Liverpool, Tottenham, and Brentford. So I mean, it's a very close call to be very, very honest. I just feel Dunk may not have that attacking threat as what Trippier might give you. So I think and Neto has Bournemouth this week, so it just feels wrong to possibly take out a player who's facing Bournemouth. I know Wolves don't score a lot of goals. They possibly even might not score as heavy as, of course, they're probably not going to score 8 or 9 goals against Bournemouth, but Bournemouth without a manager at the moment, conceding goals left, right, and center, there is a lot of wrong that is going on in the club, and I think even a Wolves possibly could score a few goals. So yeah, I don't think so. This is a move. I like the Dunk and Rodrigo switch, but I mean, this is possibly a week where you can just hold both of them. What do you think about Gundo as a captain for a punt? Have Salah, Jesus, and Kane? I mean, it's as you called it, right? It's a punt, to be very honest. The expectation of the chances, or what people are thinking is that he's possibly going to start because he didn't start the last game, and against Forest, who are quite open at the back, and they would possibly try to attack if at all they get the ball. So they could leave a lot of spaces behind. May or may not happen, I'm not sure. But I think, yeah, Gundogan possibly looks like a player who will start this week. Now, whether, I mean, Haaland starts and whether he possibly is getting more chances, more big chances to score goals, etc., I don't know. None of us do at the moment. But I think it's a bit of a far stretch, to be honest. If I have to go differential, I'll probably choose one of Jesus and Kane, and I like Jesus against Will. I don't mind him as a captaincy pick. James to Perisic looks short term, looks more than short term. I think it looks a bit risky because James could be out for at least a week, which would mean possibly two fixtures. But Perisic could easily get benched in those games, right? It's a very, very risky move. If you want to take that much risk, and maybe then let's say Perisic doesn't start in the next 2 or 3, and then you possibly are again switching to a James, then it doesn't really make sense, right? But I mean, if you want to take a bit of a risk, bit of a chance, then Perisic is a good option, but I can't be certain about his minutes, and that's why I'm a bit turned off in terms of going for a Perisic at the moment. I think if you probably had to get him, you probably should have got him at least a couple of weeks earlier, where he got a couple of starts. I still expect him to start this week, but it's going to be a tough game. It's West Ham away, and that fixture is probably not going to be an easy game for Perisic. And there are no chance. I mean, there are no sureties that Tottenham will keep a clean sheet. So a risky move may not start. Personally, I'm holding James, and I'll possibly even recommend that. But yeah, I mean, if you want to take a risk, then I think Perisic is probably the player to go for. Do you think you'll wait for the wild card to get in Sanchez? I mean, I think so. Unless I really have two free transfers and I can get in Sanchez rather than burning that free transfer, or rather than maybe carry forwarding it later on. I think if I'm able to do that, I possibly would. But I think right now, Raya is looking okay. I mean, yes, he's not getting clean sheets, but I think he's making a lot of saves. And there is potential for Brentford to keep clean sheets in the next couple of games. I mean, it's Leeds, Southampton, Palace, then Arsenal, Bournemouth, Newcastle, Brighton. That's going to be a trickier fixture, or trickier run of fixtures. So having said that, there is still saves potential with Araya. So I'll possibly see a couple of more weeks. I'll understand, or I'll see if I have an additional transfer to make. But if I don't, I think wildcard probably would be the time to kind of get a Sanchez in my team. What are your thoughts on Jesus captain? I think he's a differential option, as I mentioned. Not a lot of people probably would be. I mean, he might be a slightly popular option than maybe, let's say, somebody like a Kane, for example, or a KDB, for example. But I don't think so. He'll be as popular as a Salah or a Haaland this week. though his effective ownership, etc., might be more than 100%, but that's primarily because of the fact that everybody owns Jesus in the game right now. So I think good option. Villa have looked a bit troubled in defense, and chances are that Arsenal might score a couple of goals. We know that he's possibly going to be involved in majority of their play. He was a bit unlucky not to get anything in the last game, but I think in majority games he will be involved in those creative plays. Will be at the end of those attacking returns, and I think Gabriel Jesus is a good option to go for. Differential, but a decent option. Is it good to double up on Man City defense of Cancelo Walker? I mean, it's okay if you are looking at replacing James. I mean, yes, Man City double up is also an option. Though there again are chances of Pep roulette happening, and there could be some rotation in there as well. And yeah, I mean, we could see some surprising lineups as well. I think Walker is nearing that stage where he will possibly be rested. Maybe this week, maybe next week. They don't really have a lot of options. Maybe when Ake is, or maybe when Nathan Ake is nearing a return, I think the possibility of a Walker benching is more viable or more probable at that point of time. But yeah, I mean, it definitely covers the clean sheet points very well for both the options. Both options haven't looked. I mean, Walker, we knew that doesn't really possess a lot of attacking threat, but yeah, Cancelo has not really looked the same player or that same option which he was last year. His numbers are okay, but there's just something that tells me that he's possibly not the same option, or the same FP, or doesn't have the same FPL threat, etc. So good for clean sheets. And if you are certain about taking, James off, Perisic is the slightly riskier play, but Walker is the slightly safer option. So I think both directions you can go for. But yeah, I mean, decent safe direction to go towards if you're hell bent on selling James. James to Diaz or Doherty if he starts or plays or play one of Da Silva Andreas. I'll possibly play Andres Pereira among the two. I mean, that's what I would possibly do. But if you want to go for Diaz from Man City, I think he's the option to go for. I mean, any option or any player from Man City can get rested. We already saw that he got rested in one of the games. It was a surprising, benching decision, but I think it kind of became even because in that game Nathan Ake got injured and Diaz took his place. So I think he's still the first choice centre back for Man City. But with Pep, we've always seen that there could be an occasional benching for anyone. I mean, a lot of us are expecting Gundogan to start this week, and there are high chances that he may or may not start this week, right? So yeah, decent option, definitely the best possible option in that Man City defense in that price bracket. So I think if you have to go there, I think he's possibly the better option to go for. Doherty is still a risk because we still don't know what kind of rotation will be seen that in those Spurs wing backs. So yeah, I mean, I'm not very heavy on Doherty just yet. I will possibly want to see him starting a couple of games, getting some minutes under his belt, and then seeing how he performs. And then based on that, I'll think of maybe getting him or at least having him in my watch list. But currently, I don't think so. He is. So I mean, if you wanted to transfer, then I think Diaz is good. But if you just want to go a bit safe, get more information, get more idea, then going for Andres Pereira, I think should be okay. Captain Luis Diaz, yeah, I mean, if I'm captaining a Liverpool option, I'll still captain Salah. And there are other differentials to go for. Luis Diaz could still do well, but I mean, I know that I've been kind of proven wrong in the last week where I said that I'm still not very, very certain or very sure about his FPL returns. I might be wrong. We still have to see that on a sustained level. Though he's been doing really well, and he was also a bit unlucky in games where he's not gotten a haul or a bigger haul. So there are chances that Diaz could still do well. Differential risky for sure, considering that there'll be a lot of Salah captainers there. But yeah, I mean, if you want to take a huge punt, I think he's a good option to go for. He still won't be my differential choice because I will possibly look towards a Jesus or a Kane. But yeah, I mean, if you want to go there, risky. That's all I'll say. Best defender for 4.9 or below. Thinking Saliba or Dunk, but I don't know. I think both of them have the potential to keep clean sheets. I think Arsenal has decent fixtures. It's Villa, United, Everton, Brentford, Tottenham, Liverpool. Yeah, Tottenham, Liverpool is a bit tricky, but if I just have to maybe look at the fixtures in the next 5 or 6 games. I mean, also depends, right? I mean, do you really want this option for a long time? When are you wildcarding? Have you already wildcarded? Because if you're wildcarding in game week 8 or 9, then you can easily, let's say if you're wildcarding in game week 9, you can possibly go for a dunk, get him in your team, and then when he's facing Liverpool in game week 9 and you anyways wildcarding, you can always take him out at that point of time. Uh, so that's an option. I would possibly not want to double up on the Brighton defense. So if you already have a Sanchez, for example, I don't know who's your keeper. So if you have a Sanchez, then possibly go for Saliba. If you have a Ramsdale, for example, then you possibly go in the other direction, which is a dunk. Both options are good. They're gonna provide similar goal threat. I don't think so it's gonna be that high anyways. And yeah, I think both have decent clean sheet potential because Brighton, they might not be a top six, top eight sort of a side at the moment, or maybe this season, but I still feel they have a very solid, tight defense. I brought in Kane selling Haaland last week, trying to be one step ahead. Do I captain him this week instead of Salah to justify? I mean, you don't have to justify the move or chase the rank at this stage of the season. I don't think so. That's possibly the right approach because it's a long season. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? So you don't really have to captain him because you have to justify this transfer. But yeah, I mean, if you feel that he's possibly going to outscore, Haaland, and Haaland's probably not going to start, etc. I mean, why not? And if you want to captain somebody who's not been captained by a lot of people, and but if you feel that Kane's possibly going to outscore Salah as well, why not? I mean, Kane could be a decent option to go for, but it's just that his fixture against West Ham looks a bit tricky. Though he's the informed pick, he might not have the best fixture. Tottenham might not have. He still looks like the best Tottenham attacker to me, to be very honest. And if you want to get in an informed player and captain him, there's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, you can have a look at my team, or is it possible? I mean, you can just share your team on the chat. I mean, if you can just write it, I can possibly help you. Just mention the players, and I'll help you out. Start James, Perisic, or Andreas. I'll possibly start. I mean, ah, tricky. So if I have James and Perisic, considering that Perisic might get more minutes than James, I'll possibly start Perisic, and there are chances that James might not have even traveled, might not even play. And I think Perisic, I don't think so. Perisic gets entirely rested. So out of the three options, I'll still say Perisic, considering that he has a much higher attacking ceiling, point ceiling when we talk about Pereira and James as well. Considering this week, of course, on a regular game week, it might be very different. But I think out of these three, I'll start Perisic. Remove James or keep him on the lineup? Depends. I mean, if you have a couple of free transfers and if you are looking to make some changes in midfield, maybe get a Tony, for example, maybe change something in your defense as well. You can now use that James money and maybe downgrade him to an Arsenal defender, maybe a Brighton defender, maybe get a Man City player as well, and then make or look to make that change or make that change switch in structure or a player. If not, then I think there is merit in holding him because we still don't know the extent of the injury. How long is it? Is it just precautionary? Is he really injured as well? I mean, we really don't know anything right now, right? So there will be questions asked from Tuchel, especially after the game, and then possibly we'll get more information. But yeah, I just feel keeping him for this week. I think it's okay, especially when you have a bench. I mean, if you don't have a bench, then yeah, I mean, it becomes a bit tricky. But I'm definitely keeping him. Should I do Bailey to Gross, or Robertson to Trippier to James, or another defender? I mean, I'll do Bailey to Gross. I think it's a much better upgrade. I think Gross is playing well. Brighton are playing well. They are scoring goals as opposed to last, or future past seasons. In fact, where they generated a lot of chances, they generated a lot of XG, but they never ended up scoring those many goals. So I think Pascal Gross is looking good. He may not be on penalties. I mean, it's just been one penalty, so we still don't know. But I think Pascal Gross is definitely a better upgrade as compared to a Bailey. So I'll possibly make that move. Uh, Shirish, again, safer is Salah. If you are looking at a differential, then it's Haaland, and a risky differential is Haaland. If you're looking at a safer differential, that would probably be Gabriel Jesus and then Harry Kane. I think those are the options to go for. I don't know if you have a KDB or not, but a lot of people don't, and that's why he's not a very popular captaincy option. Pascal Gross or Perisic, I'll still play Perisic. I mean, he has much higher upside. I know Pascal Gross has Fulham, but I still play Perisic just because he has a much higher upside. I sold Salah and brought in Diaz. I mean, it's fine. I personally don't like that move, to be very honest, because I don't think so. Though the points would tell a very different story, but I don't think so. Luis Diaz possibly can cover Mo Salah, but that's just it's a lot of bias talking. It's a lot of historical, information talking. It's also what I've seen from Liverpool, and Salah has been a bit unlucky in terms of not getting anything from that Bournemouth game, because that's definitely, it will go down in FPL history as a huge, huge moment, because that's possibly not going to happen every time. Because I mean, there were 18 possibilities of a Salah return in those 9 goals, considering that you count goals and assists separately, and out of those 18 combinations, permutations and combinations, he didn't even manage one possibility. So I mean, it's very, very out of the ordinary. And I feel for people, and I feel for play, managers who've taken out Salah. I mean, of course, there's no one way of playing FPL, and you can always justify your transfers and your decisions, and in your mind what you're thinking. If you're at the end of the day, if you're satisfied with that call, and it's absolutely fine. But I think Salah is still a great option to go for. Very risky not to have him, because once he returns, I mean, you'll start sliding way down, right? Let's just hope it doesn't happen for your sake, because you've transferred in Luis Diaz. But yeah, I mean, there are chances for that. What's the max points I should use to change my team? I mean, max points. Are you talking about a hit? I mean, if you're talking about a hit, depends on what players are you getting in, and how what is the FPL potential of those players. Sometimes a -4, a -8 is also worth it. Maybe not this early in the season, because a lot of people already have those popular players, and if you're trying to get in those popular players, I don't know. I have to see your team, and I have to understand what you're trying to do to kind of answer that. Does James to Cucurella seem good? I mean, if you want to keep that Chelsea option open, I mean, Cucurella is the pick to go for. He will be. I think he should be okay for the next few weeks. But again, there is always a chance of Cucurella being benched, and when Chilwell's return or ready to return or he's fit, I think there is a high chance that maybe one of them plays in the Champions League games, and the other one kind of is rotated in the Premier League. So yeah, I mean, for the short term, it's okay. But again, I still don't know, or don't. I'm not sure about what's the extent of James' injury, and James can easily return next week and give you 15, 20 points, and yeah, you'll end up cursing yourself at that point. So I think if you're okay with that sort of a risk, I mean, absolutely go for it. But yeah, I'm not advocating taking out James just yet, because of the fact that I don't have enough information to make that decision. What do you think about West Ham as a fixture? They've been poor this season, only beating a below par. But I mean, West Ham as a fixture is still. I mean, it's still a tricky game. I don't think so. It's going to be a very straightforward game for Tottenham. It's an away fixture. It's West Ham at home. They've made a lot of signings, West Ham, and they possibly will take some time to get those signings up and running. But I don't. They have the quality. They have the players to still aim at least a top six, top eight sort of a position. And I feel maybe if you're targeting a West Ham fixture, it's possibly the time now, because they might get better with time. And Kane is, if you're talking about Kane and his potential, I think Kane is the informed player. He is the best Tottenham attacker to go for. It's also because of the fact that Son has looked so bad, and a lot of chances are now falling to Kane. Yes, we know that he would be possibly dropping in deep in a lot of the other games, but I mean, see, he still has potential. So you can definitely target Kane, and his potential looks good for this week. Purely because West Ham, yes, they've looked a little weaker, but he's also the informed player, or the informed pick. Excuse me. Haaland or KDB captain? KDB slightly safer, because I think if you just talk about this week, I think KDB might have a higher chance of playing more minutes, or might have a better chance of being on the field for more time. But then that's one side of things. The other side is that because of Haaland getting all those big chances, because of Haaland playing that central, Haaland will end up scoring more goals, and he will have more goal threat. I mean, that's definitely what's going to happen. And because of Haaland taking all those chances, higher chances are that KDB would possibly be creating those plays, those moves, and would more likely to get assists than goals. Right, his goal threat seems to have reduced a little bit, especially once Haaland now has kind of settled into the team, and I think that's possibly what's going to happen in the coming time. And because of that, I feel, I mean, yeah, KDB. If I'm taking a chance on a Man City attacker, it'll still be Haaland. It won't be KDB. Is Diaz essential? I don't think so. He's essential at the moment. I don't think so. He's essential, but I mean, he's a good option to have. He's a good double up on Liverpool's attack to have. Liverpool's attack has still looked decent. I mean, yes, they have been struggling in defense, but I've never doubted their attacking numbers or their attacking options. And if you are looking at three options, I think Diaz is the perfect third option to go for, because I still feel there is more value and more potential in a Diaz as compared to a Robertson at the moment. All the best to you too, FPL Football Herd. Hope you have a great week. Basically, you have Edison, Henry from Brentford, Pereira, Nico Williams, who I'm not sure on. At the moment, I'm forced to start either Pereira or Rico Henry, and I don't like that idea. So I'm thinking Henry to either Saliba or Brighton defender, as I have no other defenders from those clubs. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Both the options are good, and I think, I mean, it's actually quite a tricky call, but I possibly would look at Arsenal at the moment. I mean, they've conceded the least amount of shots. They've conceded less chances as compared to what they were doing last season, and their defense looks a lot tighter. So I'll possibly just edge Saliba. Fixtures are good for both teams, but yeah, it'll just be Saliba, just slightly over Dunk, for example. Who to captain? Diaz, Haaland, Trent, Saliba, Rodrigo, Leeds, Kane. Um, I mean, out of all these options, if you want to take a bit of a risk, then possibly Haaland. Otherwise, go Kane. Why is everyone talking about? Why have you been talking about Estupinan? I mean, I hope that's right. Estupinan. Guys, let me know if that was right or not. Is he good? Worth bringing in for James? I mean, apparently he had a great game. Whether he's gonna start every game or not right now, I don't know. I mean, even if anyone's talking about him, they don't know that he's a new entry in the Premier League, a new player in the Premier League. He's looked good. I mean, he's quite hyped. He's gonna play in that left wing back position for Brighton. I don't think so. He's worth bringing in just yet, because we don't know if he's gonna start every game. I mean, there are chances that he may not start, and Brighton go with a different player in that structure, that setup, because Brighton are not heavily dependent or reliant on players, right? They have a very sound structure, and they kind of take players or get in players based on that structure. So I don't think so. Estupinan, if I have got that name right, I don't think so. He's an option just yet. I mean, he could be in that price point, and he did really well in the last game against Leeds. But yeah, I mean, if I'm taking out James at the moment, I'll pause. And if I'm looking at a Brighton option, I'll possibly look at somebody like a Dunk, etc., who's probably a lot more nailed at the moment. I have Robertson right now. Should I eventually try to get in Diaz? I mean, you should, because Diaz is the better option to go for. Now, whether you do it this week, whether you have free transfers, I'm not sure. I don't know, but I personally won't take a hit for doing it. So maybe get in. Maybe if you're wildcarding, make this switch on a wildcard. Maybe if you have two free transfers, maybe you do it then. But yeah, I mean, worth doing it whenever you can, because I think there is more value in Luis Diaz. Zinchenko out of hold for now, as it goes to 50% starting risk. I mean, Arteta didn't mention that he's definitely out for this week. There'll be a late call made on his fitness, so there's still a chance that he gets featured in the game. He might not start, but I don't think so. It's a long term absence, so I don't think so. If you're okay benching him this week, and if you have some options available on your bench playing, I think you can do that. If not, then maybe you go towards the Saliba, for example, or a Brighton defender, as I mentioned earlier. Saka out of hold for Odegaard. I think Saka definitely out. I don't think so. It's worth holding Saka, to be very very honest. I think there are better options to go for. Now Odegaard is an interesting one. I've seen a couple of people talking about Odegaard very highly. I still feel Martinelli is the better option to go for, and I don't think so. He yes, Odegaard is worth having in the conversation. He scored 3 goals as well, I think, in the last couple of games. So he's definitely in the conversation. But I mean, I just feel Martinelli, considering the fact that he's gonna play in a lot more advanced position. I mean, a couple of goals of what Odegaard scored were a tad bit lucky. I know there could be a debate here. A lot of people might not agree with it, but I think there was an element of luck involved. With Martinelli, we know that Arsenal's a lot of their attacks are gonna flow from the left, and there's a high chance that Martinelli will play on that left side. So I just feel Martinelli over the long term. Yes, Odegaard has scored. He's gotten decent points, but I still feel over slightly medium to long term, I think Martinelli is still the more involved, more creative, or a better pick, which possibly has a higher goal threat. James is injured, just a bit unwell. I mean, yeah, if that's the I've not read the latest on Reece James, but if that's the case, then I'll possibly won't make the switch. I mean, you can easily hold James, play him on the bench, keep him for this week and next week. I think he should be back if it's not a serious or a long term injury. I put in Reece James and I've put Dallo in. I mean that's actually okay this week. Dallo's okay. I mean nothing spectacular to be very honest. I don't expect United to suddenly keep clean sheets, but yeah, I mean we start talking about attacking threat from Dallo and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean if you have a player in Dallo, I think he's worth playing this week. But yeah, I mean as I was saying earlier, right? If James is not injured long term, I think better to keep him in your team rather than take him out because if he starts scoring again, maybe he gets a 15-20 pointer haul. And if you don't have him, then you'll start getting him back in your team, which absolutely makes no sense. I mean, logically, just think about it for one moment. It doesn't make any sense. Don't think Haaland will get rotated? Yes, he will absolutely get rotated. I still feel there is more chance of him getting rotated next week when there is Premier League, where there's a Premier League fixture as well. There's Champions League as well. So maybe in Game Week 5 or 6, we see one of the games where he's absolutely on the bench and rested for the game. Might start, might play against Forest for 60-70 minutes. High possibility of that happening. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I definitely think Haaland will get rotated. I can hold James transfer, but I have to play Andres. I mean, absolutely, why not? Pereira can still. It's Brighton, I know. Brighton has a solid, tight defense, but Pereira can still do well. I mean, he's that creative engine in the Fulham team, and he will create chances for a Mitrovic. Mitrovic might get something. I mean, it's a home fixture for Fulham, and at home, I think they're really really good, and they will play with no fear. I don't think so. They're gonna play defensive or sit back in any capacity, right? Because Fulham are Fulham because of the way they play or because of how attacking they have been. And we are talking about players like Mitrovic, like Pereira, and I think Pereira in that price bracket, in that Fulham setup, I think he's definitely worth playing this week. Should I just sell James? As I mentioned, personally, don't think so. Unless you have two free transfers and you are trying to get some money in to make certain upgrades in midfield or attack, I think James is still worth holding. To be very honest, as a for Neto, Neto against Bournemouth, I would want to hold him for this week. I don't think so. I mean, there's a chance that Neto doesn't do anything at all, absolutely anything. But I mean, he can still do something against Bournemouth because Bournemouth have looked very very I mean I don't even have the words, but they look really bad at the moment. They don't even have a manager at the moment. It's not going that great at all for Bournemouth, and they are looking like a team who are already troubled and who are probably going to go down this season. And why not take that chance with the Neto? I mean, he might just I mean look at I know it's probably not going to make a lot of logical sense, but look at this from one aspect. The moment managers take out Neto, the moment FPL managers start taking out Neto, he comes across this fixture against Bournemouth where he finally gives us an FPL return. And I mean, what's the harm in taking that chance, right? So I'll possibly just hold Neto for this week. Should I keep or sell Kulusevski for if so, for who? I mean, Kulusevski can be sold. It's not that he has to be kept in the team. I don't think so. There's a chance of rotation with the Kulusevski. Yes, probably Lucas Moura can come in and play there because I don't think so. Richarlison's gonna play in that position. We've seen that Son and Richarlison is a more possible rotation combination, which is generally gonna happen. High chance of Richarlison, sorry, scoring in or starting this week as well. So Kulusevski, from at least minutes point of view, looks safer. But yeah, I mean, if you don't have a Diaz, for example, if you have that much, if you want to get into that third Liverpool player, I mean, he's an option. If you are okay taking a bit of a risk, maybe Gundogan is also an option. He's not an immediate sell, to be honest, very, very honestly. But yeah, I mean, if you want to look for opportunities, a Diaz or a Gundogan are possible options. Where can I find out the XG conceded by teams these past few weeks? I mean, a lot of websites are there. You have websites. You have Fantasy Football Scout. You have Fantasy Football Fix. You have FB Ref as well. I think that is another website where you get information on XG. So just check out that. As to Pinion. I mean, I still believe that I've got that totally wrong. I've messed it up really badly. Estupinian. God knows how it's. I'll check that pronunciation again. Hopefully, it'll be better for the next stream. Um, I have one free transfer: Pascal Gross in for Bailey, or James in for Trippier. James, I mean, definitely Pascal Gross to Bailey to Pascal Gross. Who to captain and vice captain from Cancelo, Gundogan, and Foden? If you definitely have to captain and vice captain, I mean, it's a risky thing because I would not want to place my captaincy and vice captaincy on one particular option. Uh, but yeah, I mean, if I have to do it gun to my head, I think it'll be Gundogan captain and possibly Foden vice captain. Will Haaland be benched? Chances are that he can be benched, but I'm expecting him to start and at least play 60 odd minutes, if not more. Um, Pep didn't really help us in any capacity or in any way in his press conference, so there are chances that he can still get benched. It's anyone's guess at the moment, to be very, very honest. But yeah, I mean, he still has the potential. Even if he comes off the bench, I think he has the potential to get in a couple of goals. Would you give a personal Insta ID? I would like to have a conversation with you, even when you are not live. I mean, I'm not a very. It'll be a bit hard to believe, but I'm not a very or somebody who's very active on their personal Instagram profile. I hardly use it, to be very, very honest. But of course, you can always reach out to me on Twitter and even on Insta. I mean, I'm the one who generally replies. More, I mean, not even most of the times, all the time. So you can just reach out to me on the Instagram handle, or you can possibly reach out to me on Twitter. Is James ill? KDB or Salah as captain? Yeah, I mean he's ill. He's ill or he's injured. We'll just quickly check it if we have anything. Yeah, it's through illness. So Reece James misses Chelsea's game against Southampton through illness. So it is illness, and I would possibly not read too much into it and start panicking. If you have a bench, I think it's absolutely fine. Um, KDB or Salah as captain. Salah definitely safer if you want to take a bit of a chance. If you don't have Haaland, I think KDB is the option. But yeah, I mean Haaland definitely is still better in spite of that rotation risk. I got Bailey and Neko on the bench. Who should I replace with James? I mean both don't have the greatest fixtures this week. If I still have to play one, I'll probably play Nico Williams. I mean, I know it's against Man City, and you'll think I'm going absolutely bonkers and absolutely crazy by playing a defender against Man City. Yeah, I mean, it's not that Bailey is any better or I mean, Liverpool can't keep a clean sheet. I mean, they possibly can, and we don't even know right now if Bailey's going to start. So, I mean, you can actually choose anyone. To be very honest, I'll possibly just go towards Nico Williams. Or get Diaz. I'll have to look for your chat. I mean, you can get Diaz. I don't know who you are replacing or. Oh, okay. Got the question. Keep Kulisevsky or get Diaz. Um, I mean, yeah, Kulisevsky is not a priority transfer out, but if you see the opportunity of getting in a Diaz, I think Diaz is a better pick, definitely. And he's also a slightly long term hold because Liverpool will do well in attack, and I think Diaz will be a lot more involved in that attack for Liverpool. So I think, yeah, I mean, if you don't have anything else to do, and if you have an additional transfer, maybe if you have two free transfers, I don't know, but if you do, then possibly just use this to get in Diaz. Got a question. James Patterson, Rodrigo Lavia for a -4. Depends on what players are you taking out as well. I don't know what. If you can just mention the players that you're taking out, I think that will possibly a little easier for me to see and then suggest if I feel if this is a okay move to go for. Trippier injured. Haven't read anything on Trippier. Just quickly see it. I mean, it says that Trippier is doubtful. He has a muscle injury. Yeah, I mean Eddie Howe on injuries, as Eddie Howe mentioned in his press that Kieran Trippier should be fine. So I don't think so. There's anything to worry there. I think he should be okay. If he said that, I think it should be fine. Who should I play and bench between Martinelli and Tony? I'll possibly want to play both if I can. But if I can't, then I'll probably play Martinelli over Tony. Palace could be a tough game. Estupinian. I mean, my God. Uh, Estupinian. I think I've got that somewhat right. I still don't know. Should I start? Trippier apparently has a minor injury, according to FPL. As I mentioned, Eddie Howe said he should be fine. So play Trippier. Of course, not the best fixture against Liverpool, but yeah. Haaland does have minutes risk, but even if he, I mean, that's what, right? Even if Haaland plays for 30, 40 minutes, there are high chances that he could do really, really well. And if you don't get that return, I mean, what is the point of owning Haaland or having Haaland if you can't get those returns, right? And of course, it is uh, very, very difficult to to sell him, etc. But I mean, yeah, you are unable to message in Twitter. Don't know what that means. I mean, I think you can message me on Twitter. I or just reach out to me on Instagram if that's okay, if that's not much of a problem. James out, Lavia out, Rodrigo in and Patterson in. I won't do it. Personally, I won't do it. Will James play? Not this week. Doesn't look like he will play. I don't think so. He's traveled. I think he's out with illness. Don't think so. It's anything related to a long term injury of sorts. So I think he should be okay, especially considering that there are a lot of fixtures coming up, etc. I mean, there are chances that he may. I don't know what illness, etc. does he have, but I mean, I think he should be okay next week or for the next game week. It's not that Chelsea have a lot of great options playing as right wing back, right? I mean, Tuchel has tried Loftus Cheek there, and he's kind of shifted Reece James as the right centre back, and it has definitely not worked in any of the games where he's done that because the kind of creativity, the kind of output that a James can provide, especially playing out wide or as a wing back. I mean, why would you play your best attacking defender in a very central or a defensive role? I understand that he possibly would be doing that because of James' fitness, because maybe of the opposition or a certain striker, etc. So it could be a bit more tactical, but I just personally don't get it. So right now 68% of people are basically holding James. I think that's possibly the right call considering that he just has an illness. I don't think so it's worth selling unless you had already made up your mind of selling James or selling a particular defender and maybe getting in money to make certain upgrades, etc. Otherwise, I personally don't think so. There is a lot of merit. I mean, if you have a free transfer or maybe two transfers and you don't have a bench, maybe you invest that money in the bench because anyways there will be certain amount of rotation that will happen. I mean, players like Haaland, players like Perisic, maybe even a Man City defender, maybe let's say even if James was fine, I think there are still chances where James could get rested, especially when the fixture congestion is a lot and there are Premier League games and a lot of other football games coming thick and fast. So there are chances of that happening. But so if you have a additional transfer, etc., I mean, use that to make your bench a little better because most of us kind of went with benches where we had 4.5 million midfielders and strikers and then a 4 million defender, right? And you might have gone for the wrong combination early on, rather than not going for somebody like a Williams, for example, or Patterson, for example, maybe even Pereira, for example, because if you have these kind of options, I still feel you should be okay in terms of these options kind of covering your uh, playing 11 or the main squad, which could be benched or rested. Thoughts on Haaland captain? Very risky. A great option. I mean, I can't say he's a bad option to be very honest, because I personally think he's a great option. The only issue or the only reason why Haaland is not probably. I mean, I still feel is a chance where he could be still the most popular pick to captain this week, but because of his minutes, I think a lot of people would be turned off by that, and that's the only reason that kind of makes me, also not captain Haaland because I mean, we know Pep doing Pep things and killing us all in FPL. So I think, I mean, even if I'm expecting Haaland to start, I mean, there is still a chance that he gets benched, right? Because only Pep knows what's he going to do because he didn't tell us anything in that press conference. So chances are that I mean, he can bench or get benched as well, and that's the reason I'm not. He's definitely not the first choice captaincy option. It's still going to be Mo Salah. I bought in Martinelli for 6.4 last week and I have 1.2 million in the bank. Gundogan is fitting in perfectly into this. I mean, I think it's worth taking a risk if you are. I mean, if it's worth doing a move if you are, you know, okay, taking a bit of a chance because Gundogan is another player who has good goal threat, who has a good goal scoring potential, but there are still a chance that where he gets benched and comes off the bench. Though we've seen that he can also come from the bench and score goals because that's how Man City play and that's how Gundogan plays because he makes those late runs in the box and that gives him a lot of potential to score goals. But yeah, I mean, it's a slightly risky move because with Martinelli, you probably won't expect Martinelli to get benched. But yeah, Martinelli has trickier fixtures, I would say, as compared to. I mean, Villa United could be. Villa, I don't really consider them a very tricky game. I think they have problems in defense, and I think Martinelli can take advantage of that. I think there is a chance that they probably score a couple, at least a couple of goals, and I expect Martinelli to get a lot involved, or at least from a creative standpoint, to get involved in those Arsenal attacks. So I think I mean, yeah, looking at those fixtures, just the next two per se, you can possibly take a risk, but it's still at the end of the day a risk because Gundogan for even for those easier games and still get benched in one of them, right? So that's the risk you take. But I think it's a if you're okay with that sort of a risk, I mean, a decent move worth doing. Would you mind talking about Sony? What is not the same like last season? I mean, see, a lot of you might not agree. A lot of you may agree, might have a different perception altogether. But I just feel the way he started. Of course, he won the Golden Boot last year. There was a lot of confidence in him. I mean, there were a lot of expectations from Son. Maybe Son had expectations from himself as well. But just the way Tottenham have started, and Son has started in particular. I mean, there. If you've seen Tottenham playing, if you've seen Son playing, there have been moments, there have been chances where he's looked low on confidence, he's looked indecisive, where there were opportunities to pass the ball, he took that shot and then not pass it to his teammates, whether it was Kane, whether it was Perisic, or even Kulusevski for that matter. There have been a couple of chances when that happened, when he possibly had to take a shot, he kind of passed it to Kane, and then expected maybe Kane to either pass it back or at least take a shot and then try to help Tottenham score. But I just feel he's short on confidence. I just feel it's been a tricky start to the season for him. Whether that continues or not, I don't think so. Now with Richarlison as well. I mean, the presence of Richarlison, because everybody was kind of expecting Richarlison to kind of rotate with Kulusevski, and that's not happened because now when we actually see it on the field, Richarlison is more of a like to like player with a Son who will run with the ball. Of course, he can outplay out wide as well. There is a certain dimension of Richarlison's game which is quite like Son, right? And that's what we've seen so far. Of course, we've still not seen enough from Richarlison to say that he will take Son's place because it's still Son at the end of the day, and he's done so well for Tottenham, and he's a very important player for them. But I still feel there is that confidence issue. There is that indecisiveness which has kind of come up, which of course comes in because of you not being at the top of your game and not being very very confident in terms of what should be your next move on the pitch, right? And then it's just because of that I feel maybe Son is not as good as he was or as good as what he did in terms of finishing or how he finished the last season. There's no, I mean, you can't really be that confident in saying that Son is absolutely crap and he's possibly not going to do anything at all this season. But at least from what we've seen right now, I think there is a high chance that a lot of the attacking play would possibly be going through Kane or to Kane, and would rely on him to score a lot of goals. And that's where I think Son's potential just kind of reduces right now a little bit. It could absolutely change, and then he could come in a good run of form, and then he suddenly becomes a great option to go for. You're able to message on Twitter. I mean, I think can you just message me on Instagram? Of course, I'll reply after the stream. But yeah, I mean, you can just reply on Instagram or just message me on Instagram. Do I play Gross or Cucurella? Otherwise, one will be on the bench. I mean, both of them have decent fixtures, but if I had to play one, I will possibly play Cucurella because he's playing Southampton, and that's possibly a better fixture. So yeah, loved how Conte defended Son by saying he's marriage material. I mean, Son is really, really important for Tottenham, right? I mean, you, I still don't think that you can imagine Kane without or Tottenham without Kane, but it almost could have happened or would have happened if he, kind of went to Man City. But yeah, I mean, it's very, very hard to imagine, Tottenham without Son, and the way he's shown his dedication and commitment to the club, I think I think it's quite commendable. And of course, everybody loves him. Conte loves him. He's still a very important player. Should I sell Haaland to Kane and William to Nico Williams to Dunk? No, I think I won't do it. Haaland is still a good option to go for. Depends if you want to play Williams every week or if he's a playing defender or somebody who's playing in your 11 week on week. Because if he is, then possibly Dunk is a better option. But I personally won't do this move. Best 4.5 million bench player. I mean, depends. Is it a midfielder? Is it a forward player? Is it a defender? If it's a midfielder, I think how much is Pereira? Is he still four? I don't think so. He'll be 4.5 though. Oh, he's still 4.5. I mean, if you're looking at a midfielder, I think Pereira has to be the best option to go for in that 4.5 price bracket. Again, if you're looking at a 4.5 million defender, I mean, there are a lot of options to go for, but I mean, why would you want to keep that much or some extra money on the bench? Forward player. Um, I mean, in terms of your forwards, I I personally won't do Greenwood because there is a chance that Greenwood gets minutes, but because of his high ownership and because of a lot of people might switch Greenwood to somebody else on a wild card. I mean, there is always a chance of Greenwood dropping in price. I mean, Taylor as well. He's 8%. I don't think so. Taylor is probably going to play minutes or get minutes. I think Stansfield is somebody who's gotten who got a start against Brentford, and he might be okay to play. And I know why you want a different 4.5 because Plange is not there at Palace anymore. So if you want to go for a 4.5 million option, I think Stansfield from Fulham is okay, considering that he's not blocking your third Fulham spot or an additional Fulham spot. Because I think there is always a potential. If you let's say if you have Pereira, then you have two more spots for Fulham, and there's always a potential to go maybe for a. I'm not sure what options would you have in mind, but there would definitely be, or there could be Mitrovic sometime in your thinking. So it should not kind of block your third Fulham spot, or maybe not choose, maybe not be able to choose the best Fulham player. I think in that scenario, if that's possible or if that's okay, I think Stansfield looks good. I've already taken a minus for this week, taking out Saka and Bailey for Martinelli and Gross, which Pascal Gross, which looks good. Do you think it would be worth taking a minus? I don't think so. I don't think so. It's worth taking a hit. You just play with Pereira, who has a decent fixture and can still do well. Pereira Da Silva to start. Brighton look good. I know they look good, but it's an away game for Brighton. At home for Fulham, at home they've looked really solid. I mean, it's not that Da Silva is somebody who is a sure shot. I mean, if you talk about just pure potential or pure ability, Pereira definitely has to be the better pick here, and I think he's still the better option in spite of having a tougher fixture. Ramsdale, James, Trent, Dunk, Walker, Cancelo, Martinelli, Salah, Rodrigo, Pascal Gross, Haaland, Jesus, Robertson to Dunk, Bailey to Rodrigo. Any suggestions? Both look good. I mean, it kind of gives. I don't know how much money will you be having with that option or transfer, but I think yeah, both decent options to go for. Instagram link isn't working. What should I search? Search insanely football at the rate insanely football. I think it should come. Hello again, benching James this week. Best 4.5 defense for upcoming weeks. Oh my god, that is a name again. Yeah. I mean 4.5. I think Dunk is 4.6 now. I don't think so. He's an option in that 4.5. I think. Uh, Let me just quickly check it. Yeah, Saliba's 4.7. That's out of question. I mean, if you still looking at Arsenal option, maybe White, but I personally don't like White. When you have a Saliba, for example, and of course, a lot of people would possibly still have Zinchenko and would hold Zinchenko. So I think maybe not White. I mean, Johnny maybe a short term punt because of the game against Bournemouth, especially. The fixtures aren't that great after 2 weeks. It's Liverpool, Man City, West Ham, Chelsea. So that's a very very tough run. Yeah, so not sure there. Um, I've took a minus four already this week. I think I've answered that. I have point 0.5 in the bank, so taking out James would leave me with 6.5, but did a minus 8. But a minus 8 did seem, I mean, it does seem pretty extreme considering the fact that James is not out long term. there is a high chance that he will return in game week 6 if the illness is not something very long term, etc. And why take a hit for a player who can absolutely return in the next game, and then maybe get in a player who you would anyways end up taking out for a James, and then you'll possibly waste one more transfer there, so maybe doesn't make any sense. Cool, guys. About 45 minutes to go, roughly about 45 minutes to go. So let me know if you have any more questions. Who are you guys captaining this week? Do let me know what you think of captaincy and who are you captaining. Don't have funds more than 4.5. Want to start a defender? I mean, Zinchenko won't start. Mm, if you're looking for a 4.5 sure shot option, let's just quickly see it again. I mean, you can even. I personally, if you're starting the player, I don't think so. Williams and Patterson really cut it in that regard. Mm, yeah, that price point is a bit tricky. I mean, you have 4.6, 4.7. 4.5 is a bit tricky. Captaining Gundogan, all the best. Risky move. Robertson to Dunk, Bailey to Rodrigo. You have 6.6 in the bank now. I mean, yeah, gives you enough money to make any other upgrades or transfers if you want to do it. Should I start James? I have Trippier and Willian and Blanche on the bench. Start James. I mean, if he's not, I don't think so. He will play though. So then Trippier comes in. I think Trippier should be that first priority option. Should I make a free transfer? You have 4.4 extra budget. I mean, Trippier is 5 million. Let's just see. I mean, I just want to be sure how 5.1. So you'll have 5.5 in the bank. I mean, you could. Trippier is an okay hold, but if you want, you can possibly go for a Man City or a Chelsea defender, maybe Cucurella, maybe a Walker. Those are slightly safer options. Uh, Trippier is this week. It's going to be tough, but then he has Palace, West Ham, which again could be tricky fixtures. Then there is a good run of fixtures. Bournemouth, Fulham, Brentford, United, Everton, Tottenham. Tottenham is tricky, yes. Villa, Southampton. So it's a good run of games. I mean, it's worth holding Trippier, to be honest. I know it'll feel like you're losing out on something this week, but I think if you look at the next 3, 4, 5 fixtures, I think you would be able to kind of match it up. Start Buemo or Pereira. I'll possibly start Pereira. Um, Buemo is also decent. I mean, I've hardly looked at him as an option, to be very very honest. I'll still start Pereira, to be very honest. Yes, let me just check something and I'll Estupinian. I hate that name already. Got same points as Veltman last match on bonus points. I mean, not sure if he's nailed already, right? I mean, he could be, but it's too early to. I mean, it's a risk. But if you really, really have to get in somebody in that 4.5 million price bracket, might as well take a risk with him. Should I make a transfer? I've mentioned this. I've answered this. I do already own Trent Robertson. Perisic and Cancelo on defense too. I went extremely big at the back. I'm captaining Salah still. It has to be a man. I mean, yeah, Salah. It was very unlucky to not get anything against Bournemouth. It's not going to happen every week. So you should not base your judgment or your decision, which could impact you in a long term, just based on that one game where he couldn't crack those 18 possibilities. When will the stream be over? I don't know. I mean, we'll stream till at least 10. Um, Maybe even more. I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah, the deadline is 10:30, so we have decent amount of time. We still have about an hour and a half, hour more than an hour. Is James out for game week 5? He is out for game week 5, but he may not be out for very long because it's if it's an illness, if it's something which is very short term, I think he should, even if he's on the bench for game week 6, there is a high chance that he features in game week 6. Let's say, and that's assuming that he's possibly still not fine from that illness. But I think he should be okay. Cool. Guys, do let me know if you have any more questions, anything at all in terms of captaincy, anything in terms of any transfer queries, any suggestions for my team if you have any. I would have two free transfers next week, and I think again based on the rotation we see, based on the patterns we see in terms of which players are playing what games, and then who are possible rotation options in the Premier League. I think we kind of know a few, but I think Gaming 5 and 6 would possibly give us more idea, give us more information in terms of what are the directions we can kind of go towards in terms of options. And I think having two free transfers in game week 6, I think it should help in some way, because we might see some injuries, we might see certain players missing out altogether, and I think that really helps. um is James out for game week 5? Yes, he is. It'll be so weird if James suddenly plays. I know he's possibly not going to do that, but it'll be so weird if James suddenly plays. Yeah, we've now had concrete or maybe certain information where we know that he's not traveled with the team, where he's maybe not. I saw some tweets where people were really making a mockery out of it, that James might own a hotel in Southampton, and he might be staying there and all that stuff. But yeah, it'll be just so weird if James starts this week. I personally don't think so that's gonna happen. But yeah. Thoughts on Alonso? Finally, some F1 stuff. Thoughts on Alonso calling Hamilton idiot? Yeah, man. I'll talk about it. Out of topic, and I know you love Fernando. I do. I really respect him as a racer. I really love him as what he's on the track. But the other side of him being on track is what he did in that radio call. It was not necessary. It was Hamilton's fault. He kind of apologized for it after the race, apologize to his mechanics, etc., as well as team as well. But yeah, those kind of comments, especially when everybody's kind of listening, maybe he wanted it to, be in that sort of a way where everybody kind of knows his feelings about Alonso. But yeah, there's still a lot of saltiness involved, or he has it since the time when both of them were at McLaren. Yeah, don't like him for what he did, but I still adore him as a racer. Is Madison playing? So Madison is an interesting one. I think. Brendan Rodgers said that they will again see and possibly make a late call. High chances that he gets featured or features in this game. So yeah, that's where we are. He's definitely not out confirmed. And there is, and he's in he is in contention to start, because if at all he's okay to play, I think he's a very important piece in that Leicester attack, and I don't think so Leicester would probably function the way they can, especially in attack, without Madison. So I think he's a very important part of that attack, and I think even if he's close to fitness or close to complete fitness, might not be match fit, but I'd still feel, I think he features in the game in some capacity. He could be from the bench as well, but yeah, I expect him to start this game. But yeah, to answer your question, no confirmed news, so I can't say that with certainty. This is just my hunch. Salah Pereira, Salah Andres out for Luis Diaz. Won't do it. No, I am not. I'm not on that Salah out camp just yet. Is James confirmed to be injured? I don't think so. There is any confirmation by the club, but from whatever we've seen so far, whatever we've read so far on Twitter, he's out as a precaution. And the assumption is that he's possibly going to miss one game week. Have you made your transfers this week? I have made my transfers by not making any transfers. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but that's what I'm doing this week. I'm not using my transfers. I'm keeping one free transfer for next week so that I'm in a better position to judge, understand the games, understand game state, and then see the rotation combinations, rotation patterns, and what's happening there, and then possibly take a call on someone like a James, for example. I think Cancelo is also somebody that I'll possibly be keeping a close eye on, because I think there is potential to be gained there where I can possibly downgrade him and get in some other options. Zinchenko is out on in all possibilities. Check the Arsenal website. I checked it before the stream. Didn't I might have missed it, but we'll check it again. I mean, a lot of the yeah, I mean, a lot of the other legit Twitter accounts, etc., are also mentioning that he's in contention to start. Arteta didn't really clearly mention that he's possibly gonna not start, etc. But yeah, I mean, if you have a link, do share a link. Any link, if you have, do share it on the chat, and I'll have a look at it again. Is Zinchenko confirmed to be out for this week? I don't think so. He's confirmed to be out. But if you have something on um wait, I just saw something. Just give me a second. I mean, yeah, he was, as far as I have read, I think he was close to being fit in the last game, and he was in contention uh for prior game week, and I think there is still a chance that he plays. I mean, I don't think so. He's confirmed out. But yeah, I mean, if you're saying that you have read it somewhere, do share a link on link of that piece of article, or whatever that is. James Andrews out for Gross, Pascal Gross and Dunk. No, I mean, still no. James about to drop in price tomorrow as well. If he was in for a price rise, and now he's 65%. I mean, that's what happens, right? People will start panic selling him, especially the people who are maybe casual players. Maybe, I mean, see, FPL is, as I always say, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? You have to be patient. I mean, the art of patience is also something that you learn with time. Sometimes you maybe don't learn it because that's not your style of play. And I think there'll be a lot of people. I mean, these are the people who kind of transferred out Trent, and then and then Trent really scored big, and then they bought in Trent. These were also probably the people who kind of took out Salah, and maybe Salah, and that's good omen for Salah. I don't know that yet, but Salah could still do really well. I know for a fact that James probably is not going to start this week, so he's probably not going to punish this week. But next week he can still play and get a big haul. So yeah, I mean, I understand the appeal of saving price, or not letting those price falls affect your team value, but I still feel James is a good option to hold. If Paulo Keefe says Doherty will start, I mean, most of his information about lineups, etc., has been absolutely bang on. So yeah, if he's, I mean, it's also one source that, of course, I know it's a trusted source, and a lot of people, a lot of players, etc., trust that news or lineup. But I mean, still, he could still get it wrong. So if you feel, or if you believe that he's possibly the best source of information, maybe go for him. But I don't think so. You should bring him in for James for sure. I mean, not at all. I mean, it's not that James. I don't think so. James is a minutes risk at all if he's fit. But Doherty, on the other hand, could be. We still don't know that yet. Zinchenko to Saliba or Gabriel. I mean, 5.2 in the budget. 5.2 gives you flexibility or the option to go towards a Man City option, or even a Chelsea option for that matter. But if you want to retain that Arsenal spot, I think Saliba is a good option to go for. Verstappen all the way dominating the hell out of everyone this year. I mean, yeah, that's what's happening. Don't like it, but there's a lot of maturity in his play, and in not his play, in his racing, and I like what I see from him this season, because he definitely looks to have matured a lot. Of course, his rivalry against Lewis was very different in from what he's having with Charles Leclerc, and Ferrari's anyways fucking it up really really bad. Yeah, that's where I am. Saturday also saw the boss forced to make changes to his lineup for the first time in this campaign. I mean, if you feel that this is good enough or enough information for you to say that Zinchenko is not gonna start this week, I still don't think he's gonna be out. So if you are panicking, and if you don't have anything else to do, or in terms of your transfer moves, maybe you go towards a Saliba, for example. But I mean, if you can, it's a somewhat of a James situation, right? I mean, yes, maybe if James is injured through illness, or out with illness, that's a different thing as compared to an injury. But I still feel it's not going to be long term. I If you want to use one transfer, or if you have an additional transfer, extra transfer, if you have nothing else to do, and possibly you want some extra money in the bank, I mean, Saliba is a good option to go for. But I If not, or if you already have, I don't know, maybe a Ramsdale, I don't think so. You'll be possibly having a Ramsdale, but yeah, I mean, again, not a higher priority transfer unless you don't really have anything on the bench as well. I mean, that's also a consideration, right? If you don't have bench players to cover a Zinchenko, then maybe just change him or take him out. Who to captain, Kane, Jesus, or De Bruyne? Out of these three, I think it's possibly going to be. I mean, De Bruyne for sure. Out of these three, number one, then Gabriel Jesus, and then Kane. Uh, Purely going by the fixtures, and I know De Bruyne also could be minutes risk, whereas Gabriel Jesus and Kane might be more nailed for almost close to 90 minutes. But I still feel because of the fixture, I think De Bruyne has the potential to do well. Bailey for James. I mean, yeah, of course, if James is not playing, I think that's possibly going to be the option. If you have a Andres Pereira by any chance, I think Pereira might be a better option to go for. I at least had that same idea. I had Bailey on my first substitute was Bailey. I changed him to Pereira. I think Pereira has more goal threat. I think more than goal threat, he has better attacking potential. He's playing for a better attacking unit at the moment. It's a home game for Fulham, and I think there could be something for Fulham here. Salah to Sterling should keep Dunk or Pereira in the starting 11. If I have to keep one of these, I mean, Phew. I it's a tough one. I think I'll still go Pereira. I mean, yeah, Brighton are a good defense, but I think I still go back Pereira to get something from this game. Salah to Sterling if planning to wildcard in a couple of weeks. I am not in the camp for no Salah. I really am not. Sterling is the only Chelsea option which has shown some promise, and that more of it in the last game. Chelsea aren't a team who generate a lot of XG. They aren't a team who they do create a lot of goal scoring opportunities, but they are traditionally not a team who score fours and fives against even the weaker teams, right? So yes, the expectation or the assumption here could be that if Chelsea score a couple of goals, I think Sterling is possibly the most attractive option in that Chelsea attack, possibly getting the highest returns. But yeah, I mean, not having Salah, it's a big risk. It's a big risk. If you're okay taking that bigger risk, I mean, you'll possibly have to hide behind the sofa to during every game week because it's yeah. I mean, not not going there at all. Um, Hey, sorry I'm late. Hey Shan, hello to you. Welcome to the stream. Ramsdale, Trent, James, Cancelo, Perisic, Martinelli, Salah, Rodrigo, Aronson, Haaland, and Jesus. Should I sell James to Cucurella? I don't think so. James is a decent hold. He should, if it's illness, he should be back next week. Maybe if the next game week 6 is too early for him to start, I still think he's going to be on the bench and he will get minutes. I'm also considering a wild 2 week punt on Rashford. I mean, what's to say that let's not punt on an Anthony, for example, right? From Man United. Of course, once he comes in, once his price is revealed and all that stuff happens. I mean, what's not to like there? Rashford. I mean, yeah. Now, realistically speaking, if you're going for an option from Man United, who I don't think so, a lot of people will. Rashford looks like a decent option, but yeah, I mean, nowhere close to consistently giving us that belief that he could be a great option. I still don't think. I mean, yeah, of course, it's a punt at the end of the day, so it may or may not work. But yeah, I mean, still a little out there. Captain Jesus is Salah, leaning towards Jesus. Safer is absolutely Salah. I mean, I think he's going to be the most safest option or the most popular option this week. But yeah, I think if you're going very safe, then go Salah. Jesus is a good option. He has potential against Villa. Villa have looked a little bit weak in defense, and I mean, Jesus has looked really strong in the Arsenal attack, right? So he was also a bit unlucky not to get anything in the last game, and I think he could do well. Ramsdale, Trent, Cancelo, Walker, Martinelli, Salah, Kroos, Rodrigo, Pereira, Jesus, Haaland. If there's a question in here, I think the team still looks okay. Um, Rabi, you've shared your team. Sanchez, Trent, Perisic, Walker, Mo Salah, KDB, Martin, Neto, Pereira, Haaland, Jesus. You have two free transfers, Walker to Cucurella and Bank one. I mean, Walker is still a good option. There is a risk in terms of rotation for both Walker and Cucurella. If you ask me, maybe I would still say Walker is slightly more nailed, but I think Walker is still expected to get a rest. On the other hand, you have Cucurella who has competition at least from Chilwell. If not, if he doesn't play in the left centre back position, he would still have some competition with Chilwell. I don't think so. Chilwell is still very close to starting a game because he's hardly featured at all. So, but on the other hand, Walker also looks pretty much nailed. I mean, I would still, if you have a transfer to burn, maybe take a shot there, maybe take a chance there. But I mean, yeah, I'm okay holding Walker as well. I think Robertson will also get. I mean, yes, the expectation is that, or the assumption is that Robertson will get rested. We've seen Simicas already coming in and taking off minutes of him, and he could have a complete rest very, very soon. Could be this week as well. You have Robertson, Haaland, and Zinchenko who have risk not to play. What should I do? Depends on the other team as well. Depends on how many transfers you have. Depends on what do you have on the bench. Yeah, if you have a cup, I still don't feel that Roberts. I mean Robertson. Yes, there is a case to be made for Robertson, Zinchenko here as well. You have other options. You have a Saliba, for example. You have defenders from Brighton. If you don't have a Sanchez, I don't know your entire team, but uh, I mean, these could be options to go for, and you can downgrade a Robertson. I don't know if you have a Diaz or not. I mean, that money could also be used to get in a Diaz, upgrade a midfielder. So there are multiple options or choices that you can, or directions at least that you can go towards. I only have Pereira and Neko on the bench. I mean, yeah, I think they should be able to cover Perisic, James, and Haaland. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's it's actually tough. I mean, all three have a high chance of getting benched this week, and that's what makes it a bit tricky. But I don't still see any value in taking them out. I mean, if you don't have Cucurella and if you are still worried about that bench, maybe upgrade your third. Depends on who do you have in as your third or the striker option as well. I still don't see a lot of value there. I think they should. I still feel Perisic and Haaland they will get minutes. I don't necessarily believe that they will be rested for the entire game. So yeah, I think yeah, it could be a tough 1 week, but if you're looking at the bigger picture, I don't think so. There will be a huge issue here. Neto keep. I think so against Bournemouth. You would want to keep him. Bournemouth looked really, really poor defensively. They are conceding a lot of goals. They don't even have a manager at the moment. So I mean, why not? Even a team like Wolves, even a Neto, who had like a lot of people had very high expectations from him. I mean, he could still end up doing really really well this week, and might just give us the first set of FPL points that we deserve. You did your MBA. I did my MBA. Yes, I did my MBA long back. It's been quite some time. Two free transfers. Should I remove KDB and Neto to Diaz and Gundogan? Remove KDB and Neto to Diaz and Gundogan. I mean, not this week. I mean, I understand as a combination, Diaz and Gundogan looks really, really good. But yeah, I mean, as you've correctly pointed out there, right? Transferring out KDB when you have a fixture like Nottingham Forest at home, it just feels. I mean, it's more scarier than awkward to be very, very honest because KDB can still haul big. I mean, yes, we're all talking about his potential, maybe slightly being lesser than a Haaland because of how many chances or how many big chances Haaland is getting because of how central he's playing and KDB's attacking potential might just be reduced to that creative threat that he can provide. But I still won't transfer this out. Do I transfer Zinchenko out for James out or James? I mean Zinchenko is if you have to transfer out one, I think Zinchenko is probably the one to take out. Saliba is an option which helps you retain that Arsenal spot, also helps you save some money. Guys, about an hour to go still. Still a long time to go. We've been streaming for the past 1.5 hours. Yeah, 8 o'clock is when we started. Guys, do let me know what you think about captaincy, what questions you have, if at all you have anything to add, anything regarding anything at all. Please feel free to add that in the chat. Do I do read to a 4.4 or burn my transfer? Do we have 4.4 million options in midfield? We do. I mean, if this 1 million is I mean, Reed is going to give you minutes, and I don't think so. Is if we have a player in the 4.4 million category who's probably going to play a lot of minutes, or probably going to at least give you appearance points. So keep that in mind. If this is a very important, if this is a spot that might come to use when you see some rotation, and the other options are dud players, then maybe not do it. But if you want this, on the other hand, if you are looking for this point 0.1 million, and I mean it could be used elsewhere to maybe complete a transfer, then maybe it makes more sense. Thank you so much, Praveen. Thank you for the super chat. Your question is Haaland or KDB for captain? If we have both, lots of people predicting Haaland to start. I mean, I'm also kind of predicting him to start, and I think he will. There's a high chance that he probably plays about 60 minutes, and that's the reason I like him more than a KDB. I understand that KDB might get more minutes in this particular game against Forest, but Haaland, as I mentioned earlier, he has direct goal threat, right. I mean, he's playing a lot more central. We already saw in the last game what he can do, and this is probably one of his first of many hat tricks to come in the Premier League. And I think because of how Man City, or because of Haaland's presence and how Man City are kind of setting up now, they are playing to Haaland's strength, and there's a high chance that even players like Foden, players like Mahrez, for example, or even, I mean, Gundogan is a slightly different pick, but I think these sort of players uh, play according to what Haaland is kind of doing on the pitch, where he's going, what is his movement on the pitch. And I think KDB also would probably be a little similar in that regard. And I know I'm probably going to say something very controversial, but I think that, at least in terms of what I've seen so far, I think he might not be great value in terms of what his price is. Having said that, he will still have a lot of creativity, a lot of creative threat, because he will try to play Haaland for those one-on-one goals with keepers, and I think he will still get a lot of assists. His goal scoring potential, at least for now, looks a little bit lesser, considering how Haaland is playing and Man City is playing, and for that reason, I think you know Haaland is generally a better captaincy option. Let's say if this 90-minute discussion wasn't there, he was anyways a good captaincy option. Even if he comes off the bench, let's assume the worst, that he's not starting, and even if he comes off the bench, I think there is a high chance that he can get a couple of goals, maybe even a hat trick against Forest, who've looked very open in the back. So I think if you have both, definitely go Haaland. I still feel it's a slightly riskier option, but the better option to go for. What do you think about doing James to dunk this week, and doing Perisic to? I'll read that again. What do you think? What do you think about doing James to dunk this week and doing Perisic to James next week? If we get news, I mean, you are kind of playing poker here, right? Like going by each hand. I mean, it's I don't know. James to dunk this week. I can't really say that Dunk will absolutely keep a clean sheet. There is no certainty of that happening, but as a transfer, it looks okay. Perisic, I personally feel Perisic has a higher chance of maybe getting benched next week, when we also have the Champions League game coming up, and I think Conte would want Perisic to be fine for that Champions League game. So I don't like this move, to be very honest. I mean, it could go horribly wrong, right? Where Perisic plays this week, gets a good haul, gets benched next week. I mean, what if James is also kind of out next week, because next week is not very far from now. Yeah, so I mean, James to dunk this week looks okay, because James possibly is not going to start, so he's not going to get any minutes. But if you have a decent bench to cover up, I think it's fine. Rory Jennings, he's a Chelsea fan who's been popular among us Chelsea fans because he's very deluded. Had predicted Haaland will score less than 50. I mean, yeah, less than 15 goals we'll see. Don't. I mean, a lot of people, of course, it's a valid concern in terms of, thinking that Haaland is probably going to struggle in the Premier League. A lot of other players have. Other players weren't really Erling Haaland. And he's playing for the best, possibly the best attack in the Premier League at the moment, right? And they've very quickly adapted to how he is, and how his physical stature is, and how his movements are, and how he can contribute in that Man City attack. I think Pep has worked really, really well in that regard already, and we're seeing the results already. I mean, yes, there will be he would not get a lot of the ball for majority of the game, and I mean, as in specifically talking about a Man City fan, or an FPL player, I think it would be a bit frustrating to see Haaland, because he might get a lot less touches than a player like Salah, for example, a Diaz, for example, a Kane, for example. But how his goal outputs are, or how he's contributing in that Man City attack, I still feel he has great goal threat. And he's a clinical finisher. We've already seen that. He's also on penalties. There are a lot of outlets to his to his game. And I mean, 15 goals is crazy considering that he's already scored 6 and 4. Yes, if he gets an injury, then it's a different conversation, because he tends to pick up those niggles and those knocks, and high chances are that because of the schedule this season, where we also have the World Cup, we have midweek fixtures. Though Man City have I can't really say a ready replacement, but yeah, some replacement in an Alvarez who's impressed when he's played. But yeah, I personally think 15 is way too less. Robertson will also get rested. So I have Robertson, Haaland, Zinchenko, who have the risk not to play with. I think I've already answered this. I mean, take out Zinchenko or take out Robertson, maybe upgrade your midfield. I don't know what your midfield etc. is, but yeah, I mean, a lot of directions you can go towards. I'll possibly think of taking out Robertson. I won't take out Haaland for sure. Zinchenko next week should be or could be okay. So Robertson, if Robertson can give you that much value to make certain upgrades, you take out Robertson. If you can't do that, for example, or if you feel that your midfield is fine or your attack is fine, then you take out Zinchenko and get in Saliba. I think that's a straightforward move, unless you want to go Chelsea or Man City. What's your thought on Perisic, West Ham, Fulham, Man City, and might get rotated with fixtures pile up? Should you? I mean, you can make a case of removing him. That's for sure. I would possibly still hold him this week, because I generally think he has a high chance of starting this week. But yeah, when the fixtures get tough and there will be rotation, maybe he's preferred in the Champions League games, and maybe Sessegnon plays in those slightly trickier games. Let's say maybe against Man City, you might expect Sessegnon to start, and Perisic might come from the bench. That's a high possibility. So yeah, if you're looking to replace him, depends on the money, depends on how much you. I mean, which direction you want to go towards. You can go towards an Arsenal defender. You can go towards a Brighton player. You can even go for a Cucurella, for example. Cucurella still looks okay in the short term. I still can't say with 100% surety that he's a great long term option. But yeah, I mean, these are certain directions to go for. And if you want to double up on the Man City defense, if you don't have a double Man City defense, then you know uh, going with the Walker is also fine. But I also expect Walker to maybe get rested in one of the upcoming fixtures. I have both Zinchenko and Perisic and Dunk on the bench. I have one free transfer, zero point 0.7 in the bank. I still feel at least one of them definitely plays or starts this week. Dunk on the bench, maybe getting Dunk ahead of Zinchenko if you feel, or if whatever reports etc. have said. And I still feel that there possibly could be some chance of Zinchenko at least being on the bench. But yeah, I mean, I still think Perisic is probably going to start. If you are, if you want to use this transfer, as I said earlier, I mean, Zinchenko to a different Arsenal player could be an option as well, and that could be a playable option as well. Uh, Zinchenko to Dunk or any other Brighton defender? What do you think? Safest is Dunk, uh, and I mean Veltman is still a slight doubt for this week, so I possibly won't go there yet. I think safest is still Dunk. Estupinian. I think uh, he's still not nailed. So yeah, I mean, I personally won't go there just yet. I mean, it could be an option, but I think Dunk is the way to go for. Is rank 5 million bad? I mean, it's too early to talk about ranks. To be very very honest, I mean, we've just reached game week 4. There are chances that in the next few weeks your rank might be 1 million, maybe 500k, maybe 100k. I don't know. I don't know what could happen, but there's always a chance that you can easily jump rank, especially at the start of the season, because ranks are so volatile. If you go for a certain player, maybe a differential, maybe you get captaincy right, maybe everybody's captaining Salah, and in a particular week you captain Kane or Haaland, and if they do really really well, there's always a chance that you can cover up those points and cover up those or gain those ranks by a great deal. So always a good chance to catch up on rank, and don't be very stressed about rank at this point of time. Who should I keep first on the bench, Pereira or Da Silva? I think Pereira definitely on the first on the bench. Free high deck, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. Haaland may not play for 60 minutes and get rested, most probably. I mean, yes, there's always a chance that he could get rested completely. And uh, yeah, 100 may not play for 60 minutes or get rested. So will it be good to captain him? I mean, it's a risky option to go for sure. You may think that there could be better options. You may have Salah in your team, you may have Jesus in your team, and those are probably a little safer options. But he has great upside, but comes with a huge risk. So you'll have to accept that risk and be okay with the fact that if Haaland doesn't feature in the game at all, or if he comes on the bench and maybe gets a single pointer, you took a decision to go for that risk. It didn't pay off, which is fine, because sometimes it will, sometimes it won't in FPL terms, and take that on the chin and move on. I think that's, yeah, that's where I am. The best Brighton defender, I think it's Dunk still, to be honest. I mean, he's nailed. He has some goal threat. 4.6 million for a Brighton defender. I think it has to be him at the moment. Thoughts on incoming Anthony? Really excited, really happy. I put up a story on Instagram as well, on the Insanely Football Instagram page. I know that there will be a lot of conversation about the money that we've spent, and I understand why we've spent it. I still don't like that aspect of Anthony as a player, but to be honest, as a Man United fan, I think for once I will ignore the money spent, and of course we've been spending like crazy, and it's probably wrong to say that, but I will just ignore all of those conversations. Just happy, just excited about the player. I know that he will possibly give us a different dimension in terms of what we can do on the field in terms of attack. It is definitely a signal of strength, and it is a good signing to go for, a good player to go for. He's already played under Ten Hag, so there is also some amount of comfort there. And i think I think this could be, again, I'm being very careful with what I'm saying and what I think about United at the moment, but I think this could be a great signing in the right direction. We're still yet to see what happens with the United front three. I mean, who plays in that front three? I don't think so. Rashford still makes sense in that number 9 position. I mean, I don't think so. Ronaldo is at the moment anywhere close, playing in that number 9 spot. So it's probably going to be Martial, maybe Rashford or Sancho, one of them, on the left, and then Anthony on the right. So excited about him. He's done well in the with Ajax, and of course Premier League is a very different ball game altogether, and there could be a chance where he struggles in the beginning, etc., all of that conversation. But I still feel that it's a good signing to start off with, and let's see what happens. Neto and Perisic to Gross or Saliba? No, I'll keep Neto and Perisic. Would you take a -4 to take Iverson out? I mean, I would, to be very honest. I know you might think that taking out a keeper for -4 doesn't really make any sense. Also, for a 4-week window, would you? I mean, I would possibly look at Sanchez still. I still feel he has slightly better fixtures, unless you can possibly just wait it out and go for it on your wild card if you're playing a wild card after 4 weeks. I still feel there's merit in going for a different keeper. Yes, it might feel like a hit is not justified for a keeper, but I think you can cover that off in at least a couple of weeks. The likes of Iverson or Ward, whosoever plays, at this moment we don't really care, because Leicester are really bad defensively. They aren't going to keep clean sheets. They're going to concede a lot of goals. They're possibly not even making enough saves to justify their position. At least a Henderson is doing that. He's saving penalties, which of course he can't sustain. I mean, I don't know what's happening there, but uh, yeah, even for a hit, I think it's okay. It's not really anything bad, because you will end up getting a better keeper who will end up getting clean sheets, maybe save points. And out of Sanchez and Raya, I think Sanchez looks like the better option to go for. Though I have Raya in my team, and I'm not very uncomfortable with having him over a Sanchez, because Raya still making saves. He's still getting save points. I don't know if he's gotten bonus points or not, but yeah, he has. He got 2 bonus points in the last game, in spite of conceding against Everton. So Sanchez definitely better in terms of clean sheets over the next four. But Raya can make kind of cover those points up with saves. But I still feel Sanchez is the better option to go for, and even for a hit, I think it's fine. Anthony will be our only left-footed forward too. I mean, yeah, we have since what happened to Greenwood. So yeah, I think that will be really interesting. With Anthony coming in, do think Rashford's place is in danger because Sancho will shift to his favorite position on the left? I mean, it could be. I don't know what Ten Hag is gonna do. Only Ten Hag knows what he's gonna do. But I think Rashford cannot play as a number nine. I mean, in whatever games I've seen so far this season, when Rashford was playing as a number nine, the likes of Martinez and Varane, they were playing a lot more direct. They were trying to feed into Rashford by playing those long balls, and it was definitely not happening because he's not somebody who can shrug off defenders with his physical stature, who's probably going to hold the ball and get other players like an Anthony, for example, like a Martial, maybe not a Martial, maybe a Sancho, for example, more involved in the game. So I don't think so. Rashford can play in that position, and then that's why possibly there's a chance that he might lose his place. But yeah, I mean, the same could also be said for Sancho as well. So let's see. Uh, let's see. I mean, I think it's gonna be tricky if Martial plays as that number nine role. I think if Anthony is starting those position in that right side, which again we are of course we're saying that because he's a new signing, because he's an expensive player, because he's somebody who can start those games, doesn't mean that he would start all the games there. So there, but I still feel there'll be a lot of rotation and chopping and changing, a lot of switching between these four players. Billy to Eze for a hit. Is it viable? No, not for a hit. Gabriel versus Dunk. I think Mm, I think Dunk is probably the slightly better option, considering that he's cheaper as well. I mean, if this was a conversation between a Saliba and a Dunk, I think it would have been probably Saliba. But yeah, Gabriel just being that extra money, I think it's not worth it over a Saliba, for example. Is Haaland or Salah a better captaincy option? I think Salah is safer. So if you want to go safe, you go Salah. Haaland is risky, but he has a great chance of scoring a huge haul this week. But understand the risk, be okay with the risk, and if he doesn't do well, don't beat yourself over it because there is a chance that he can get benched. So you are taking a huge risk, considering that Haaland's potential might be slightly reduced because of that benching, but he's still a decent option to go for. But if you want to go absolutely safe, I think Salah is the one to do it this week. Rashford isn't good enough for this. I mean, yeah, he isn't, as I mentioned, right? He doesn't link up play like a number nine, and I don't think so. This is probably going to happen. So, who's the better captaincy option? Why Salah versus Haaland? I just mentioned Salah safer, better captaincy option. Newcastle have struggled in defense. It's not that they are keeping clean sheets left, right, and center. Yes, they are a much improved defensive unit, but Liverpool, I mean, I can't really say from one fixture that Liverpool all of a sudden are in great form because they scored 9 goals against Bournemouth. But I think Salah, I mean, it's also that itch, right? Like scoring 9 goals and not having any contributions in those 9 goals. I think that will play some part in Salah's mind. And I think that just might motivate him to, maybe be a little selfish, takes those shots and try to finish and get a return. Haaland has maybe slightly higher potential because of the fixture specifically, but when we even it out with the minutes risk, I think he's definitely second to Salah. Uh, if he starts, I mean, there is no limit to what he can achieve against Forest, but that's the risk that you take. So it's a risky option to go for, and that's why he's slightly below or behind Salah in terms of captaincy. Edison to Raya or Sanchez to free funds. Then Bailey to Gundogan for a hit. How's that option? I mean, not for a hit. Uh, Depends on if Bailey is a playable option or a bench option. If it's a playable option, maybe do it. If it's a bench option, just keep him on the bench and not play him. As per rumors, Man City are on the verge of signing Akanji, centre back from Dortmund. Uh, could be a decent option. I mean, Stones and Laporte are decent players. It's not that they aren't that good. Nathan Ake has also played well, when he's played centre back, and he was doing really really well. Though of course there was a lot of conversation around when Laporte would have been fine or whenever he will be fine. He'll probably take his place back from Nathan Ake, but Nathan Ake wasn't doing really anything wrong, right? Uh, do they need another centre back? Yes, with the injuries that are happening and the options. Stones is also not somebody who you can rely on week. Of course, he's been okay because he plays alongside Ruben Diaz, and Diaz really makes that defense stick and a lot stronger. But yeah, I mean Akanji, I think he could be a good signing for Man City. I think anyone who plays alongside Ruben Diaz, tends to do well. It was something what Liverpool also kind of witnessed because as soon as Van Dijk kind of came in, even a Matip did so well. Gomez did so well. So I think it'll be a good cover of or a cover for in those centre back positions, considering that there'll be so many fixtures, considering that there'll be so much conjunction in terms of City playing different competitions. I think it'll be a good cover. Do you think Salah can blank against Newcastle? I mean, Newcastle do look decent defensively, but I mean, it's at home. Uh, I think they would Klopp would have gotten some momentum from that Bournemouth game, and I mean, it's a tricky fixture. I mean, I'm not saying it's an easier fixture than a Forest, but because of the fact that Haaland is not a secured starter, it just makes me feel that Salah is probably the safer option to go for. Having said that, there's still a chance that Salah blanks and Haaland scores a hat trick, and then we'll end up beating ourselves because we didn't go for the riskier move. But again, these are very personal thoughts. My opinion, yours could be different. Somebody else's could be very, very different. Uh, but that's what I feel. Salah captain, Salah Haaland captain, who to choose and why? Kind of answered this already. Who do you think is better, Harrison or Rodrigo? Rodrigo has more goal threat, as from what we've seen. He's taking a lot more shots in the box as well. So there are more chances of getting a goal there. Harrison is a more complete player, as I mentioned earlier in a lot of my other videos as well. It's looking like he's gonna play that why am I saying Rodrigo? He's gonna play that Rafinha role, which Rafinha played last season, and I think because of that there's a lot more creativity to his game than just scoring goals, and he will be setting up his teammates. He will try to create a lot of chances, and we know that he can score goals as well. So overall, I think Rodrigo is still better just because of the fact that he's playing in a very advanced position and he's taking a lot of shots. Now, what happens when Bamford returns is another conversation, because his positioning, Rodrigo's positioning might change when Bamford returns. He may not be on penalties when Bamford returns. So as a pick, as an FPL pick, his overall output might be reduced a little bit. That's an absolute possibility. But yeah, right now at the moment, I think Rodrigo is still the option to go for. Why not go Jesus over Salah then, or even Rodrigo against Everton? I mean, Rodrigo is not somebody who you can really trust with captain. I mean, so first of all, depends on how you look at captaincy, right? I personally look at captaincy as as something that I generally don't like to go very very risky or very differential in terms of captaincy. I like to trust the premium assets, having unless they have a really really tough fixture, and because generally you have the likes of Kane, Salah, Haaland this season, KDB, Son last season. They were really really good options, and if somebody had a tough fixture, there was always somebody else who I could captain, because even if you don't get it right with differential picks in your team, if you get that right captaincy, I think half of more than half of your work is already done there, right? And with these premium assets, because of their talismanic nature, because of how important maybe a Son, maybe a Salah, etc. are to their respective teams, I generally like to go for premium options. Having said that, it's not that Jesus is not very critical to Arsenal's overall play. I think a little bit of that thing also kind of comes in to play it a bit safer, considering that a lot of people would also be captaining Salah here. I think I'm personally going a bit safer, going with Salah. uh, Gabriel Jesus is not a bad option to go for. He's a slight differential. I understand that Villa are a bad defense and they could still end up conceding goals, but we've seen that Gabriel Jesus is not somebody who scores. Or again, I could be absolutely wrong, but could maybe who scores every week. We saw that thing from Salah last season. Yes, he's not done that for a long time now, and we're still kind of focusing on it. But it's also kind of historical in terms of how and why we believe that. So I know it may not be justified, but I still feel that Salah is a slightly better pick to go for. Though in terms of pure fixtures, I still feel you know uh, Gabriel Jesus has a better fixture. But yeah, I mean it's close, but I'm just gonna go safer, just because of the fact that he will be heavily owned. Uh, he's anyways heavily owned. He will be heavily captained as well, and then that just kind of makes me think that it's maybe easier to go a bit safer right now and not take a lot of risk at the moment. But yeah, I mean, even if you go for Gabriel Jesus, it's not a bad option. Rodrigo against Everton. Everton don't look like a side who will defend deep and sit back a lot. I mean, they would try to take the game to Leeds, but I mean, we've seen that Rodrigo against a tougher defense like Brighton. Of course, I'm not comparing a Brighton defense to the Everton defense. Uh, but yeah, I mean, just not very convinced about his potential week in week out. He's good as a pick, but when I'm captaining a certain player, I need to be very very sure about his returns. Having said that, I'm kind of contradicting my own point because Salah has not been doing that well. But I mean, it's still Mo Salah at the end of the day, right? I mean, he's still one of the best picks in FPL. Mount to Foden for a -4. I mean, I would want to take out Mount now. Whether it's for a hit, it's tricky. I mean, I would possibly, if I'm taking this hit, I'll possibly take it for Gundogan and rather than Foden. I mean, he looks like a better option at the moment. It's very difficult to identify the returns with a Foden or a Bernardo Silva. I mean, I'm not saying that they are bad FPL picks. It's just that we don't know when are they going to give returns. If City score 4 or 5 goals, there are chances that Foden might not be involved at all, or a Bernardo Silva might not be involved at all, right? And that's what makes it a bit difficult to go for these picks. I think Gundogan, we know what we can expect from Gundogan. We know what is he gonna give to the Man City attack. We know that he has goal scoring potential. So if I'm probably taking a hit, I think it's possibly going. It should be Gundogan rather than Foden. Chelsea are offering Broha and Gallagher to Everton in exchange of Gordon. I mean Gordon. I've seen enough from Gordon to think that a lot of other teams would be after him. But yeah, the kind of money etc. They were offering, of course, if it's an exchange deal, I think Bro and Gallagher to Everton could be really, really good options for Everton. I think Gallagher, when he played for Palace, of course, the system could be different, the manager could be different, things could be different, but I think Gallagher still has a lot of potential that might not get realized in a Chelsea team. And I think in Everton could be, but I am still not a huge fan of Everton. And again, no disrespect to any Everton fans, but yeah, I mean Lampard and Everton just don't look like the right combination. Broha is another interesting option. I think he did pretty well in bits and pieces for Southampton, and I think he could do well because Everton are looking for a striker. So this could be a decent move. Gordon again. Do Chelsea really need a Gordon? I personally don't think so. They possibly need a proper number 9 or a striker. But again, at the other end of the spectrum is that maybe Tuchel might not be able to play that system with a proper number 9. Maybe that's why Lukaku also kind of struggled in there. But yeah, I mean, good good options for Everton if this deal happens though. Holding Perisic for next 2 game weeks for West Ham and Fulham are a good idea. I mean, yeah, I mean, it does kind of make sense to have him in your team and then assess week on week, see how his minutes are, see who's playing where. I mean, who's playing in what? Let's say in. I mean, if let's say Perisic is not playing, how many minutes is he getting from the bench? Is he getting fully rested for the 90 minutes, etc.? I mean, there are chances that we might get more information, more idea, and it will just help us taking a more informed decision at the end of the day. Who should I captain currently on Salah? Thinking about Cancelo, Gundogan, Haaland. I think Salah is good. It's safer. If you want to take a bit of a risk, it's Haaland. Rodrigo is captain. I mean, I just feel there are better options to go for, and that's why I don't like Rodrigo as a captaincy option too much. I mean, it's still it's still not going to be a very very you know uh, easy sort of fixture. So I mean, let's see. Everton could be decent. I mean, it's not a home game for Everton. Everton traditionally look a lot more solid when they're playing at Goodison. So that and Leeds at home have been really rocking this season. But yeah, I mean, still not very convinced. Do you think we as FPL managers are overemphasizing Salah's past performances? And I mean, I won't disagree, to be very honest. To some extent, we are. To some extent, we are kind of looking at past performances, historical data, and then maybe making certain biases in our mind. I might be. I don't know that for sure, but I might be. Uh, but having said that, it's still, if we see his performances, if we see the kind of goals or the kind of goal returns he could have had against Bournemouth, he was the most involved player. The numbers were there to support the theory that he was still the best captaincy option, and he could have got a major haul, against Bournemouth as well. So yeah, I mean, it's just not that it's just because of historical performances. We are saying that every week Salah is a great option to go for, but there could be some element of bias involved. I'm not denying that for sure. Rodrigo is captain. I mentioned Tonio Mitrovic is third striker. Still like Tony, Mitrovic could become an option from game week 8 or game week 9. Game week 8 when they're facing, I mean, Forest, the next three look a bit tricky, but yeah, I think Tony's next three look a lot better. And you can absolutely go for him. If the Tony move doesn't work out, you can possibly make a switch from Tony to Mitrovic. I'm gonna go Jesus captain. I've said that I know Salah will definitely get. I mean, let's hope that Jesus does well for your sake. But yeah, I mean, both could do well. But I understand the logic that Newcastle could be a trickier game than Aston Villa. But yeah, I mean, let's see. Also, what do you think? At what price Anthony comes in at the? Um, I think Anthony definitely has to be. Yeah, it has to be 7.5. I don't think so. He's there in that 6-ish million category, or maybe an 8 or 9 million price asset. I think it's possibly going to be between 7 to 8 million, if not more. I don't think so. It'll be less for sure. Opinion on Cancelo as captain, can get a clean sheet or even assist. I mean, I personally won't do Cancelo captaincy. I don't think so. He's gonna get rested. Chances are there for a clean sheet, but I mean, yeah, it's a bit risky because Forest have looked. I don't think so. Forest will play like the way they played against Tottenham. I think they, first of all, they will have a lot less of the ball. First, secondly, it'll be an away fixture for Forest, so things are going to be slightly different there. But I think, yeah, Cancelo assists, one goal, and the potential drastically reduces. On the other hand, if you're looking at a attacker for captaincy from Man City, I think that could be a better option. Salah just hasn't been. I mean, yeah, there's no denying the fact that he hasn't been the same after Afcon, and there is something that is not clicking there. But I mean, he's still a very important player for Liverpool. Of course, they went out of the way to get that contract signed, and we know the reason why. So I think he'll still do well. But yeah, I mean, as compared to a Gabriel Jesus or a Haaland, when we talk about attacking returns by the end of the season, I mean, things could look a little different. Pereira or Da Silva, I will go probably Pereira out of the two. I think better attacking upside, better ceiling in terms of FPL points, in spite of the trickier fixture. James to Estupinian. Estupinian. Uh, I'm murdering that name throughout the stream today. Uh, no, I won't take out James. I think James should be okay for next week. If not, if he doesn't start game week 6, I definitely think he'll be on the bench. It's not a long term injury or anything. It's just through illness, and I think he should be back soon. 20 minutes, guys. Make sure that you don't wait till the end to complete your moves. Finish your transfers. Choose captaincy. Salah safer. A lot of people are going to go Salah. If you want to go slightly against the crowd with decent potential, I still feel Haaland is a great option to go for. If you want to go maybe with an option which is more nailed than a Haaland, maybe, and has decent potential, I think Gabriel Jesus is also a decent pick to go for. But yeah, I mean, overall, I just don't feel that it's worth or value in selling James this week unless you had already pre-planned that transfer or you had some plans in terms of making a downgrade from a premium defender and then adding that value in midfield or among forwards. Other than that, I don't think so. There's this enough to tell us that we should suddenly take out James. It just feels too short term. And when we're playing FPL, we can't just play week by week. I mean, we still have to understand what are the players that we possibly would want to keep. What is my slightly short to medium term strategy? Where am I, or where am I at when I'm talking about using the wild card currently? Considering that I have the first wild card available with me, so I just feel uh, it's just okay to keep James. James ill is what I've read. I think Dunk is still the best Brighton defender to go for. He's definitely more nailed. I mean, yes, there could be options coming up, but I just feel he's definitely the more nailed option, and he has some goal threat as well. So I might just do James to Cucurella this week and switch it again, or just wildcarding him around. I mean, yeah, if I still feel James has higher potential, especially when he's playing in that right wing back position. I just feel his potential is off the roof, and there are chances that he plays in that right wing back position in the upcoming game. So It's a it feels like an additional transfer made for some reason. But yeah, I mean, if you want to be absolutely sure with Cucurella, who also could be, I mean, there are chances that when Chilwell returns, I mean, he could be benched considering that maybe Reece James plays in that right centre back position along with Koulibaly and Silva. I mean, there are chances of that happening as well. Arsenal signing Griezmann, I'm not sure. I've read a confirmation somewhere. Haven't really read anything confirmed yet. I mean, a lot of people. In fact, Emma, who's a Twitter account, she does predictions on the Man City lineups, and she's quite good. And the predicted lineup, according to what she's written, is Haaland is likely to start. Um I mean, she's usually right. Yeah, I still think he starts. Haaland starts. He might play about 60, 70 minutes. And then might be hooked off. But I still feel that he starts this one. Trust Salah over Haaland for captain. I mean, if you wanna be absolutely sure, if you're just considering, or if you're considering, it depends on what you're valuing, right? If you're valuing minutes, it has to be Salah. If you're valuing the fixture and the overall potential, Haaland definitely has higher potential than a Salah. So it depends on how much risk you want to take. If you want to take a slight bit of risk, I think Haaland could still be okay. I know James has better potential, but I'm just worried about. I mean, yeah, with James, I mean James, it's not that James is out for a very long time, and Perisic as well could start this week. Is expected to get rotated in the next, at least maybe once or twice in the next three fixtures. So that makes things a bit tricky for sure. Um, yeah, great guys. About 15 minutes to go. We'll possibly end it after that. I'm a little hungry at the moment. We've been I think this has to be the longest stream that we've done in this season at least. It's possibly gonna reach about 2.5 hours. Anyways, thank you so much anyways for joining. And yeah, I mean, if you new around here, make sure you like the stream, subscribe to the channel as well. We do daily FPL content. We've been doing that for the whole season. Follow us on Instagram as well. There are a lot of updates that we do on Instagram. We do game week breakdowns. We do players to buy and sell every week. We also talk about differentials, captaincy options, a lot of good stuff. So if you are into FPL, if you are taking it a bit more seriously than a lot of other players, feel free to follow us and check our channel out on YouTube and Instagram. Will you play Zinchenko and hope he starts the game? If not, take one pointer or start Dunk, knowing that is a. I mean, if you want to be absolutely sure, I'll possibly take a chance with Dunk, considering that there could be a possibility of a clean sheet. I mean, it's a possibility; it's not a surety. So I mean, yeah, I'll possibly still play Dunk, but I mean, I still feel that Zinchenko will be involved. But yeah, I get the point of him getting a one pointer and maybe not being as valuable as you probably would be on the other hand, where Dunk can get you a clean sheet. So there is that chance, there is that possibility. Let's see if we have something on Twitter, if we can get some information, anything that might be helpful. I mean, yeah, a lot of people are saying that play Pereira for Reece James. I think you would definitely want Reece James back, right? It'll be very difficult to go. I mean, I know that James is a sort of a player which kind of you know trolls you at different points of the season, but I think you'd still want Reece James from Chelsea. It's very difficult to go without him. When are you thinking for wildcard game week 8 or 9? I mean, right now it's open. Might do it in game week 9. A lot of fixture swings, international break. So there is a chance that a lot of things could change. We might get injuries. We might get more information on rotation, etc. And yeah, I mean, lot of potential to maybe a template to break as well. So possibly keep it as late as possible, and if at all the team is in bad shape or it's really doing bad, I think of course the option to correct that is always a wild card. But yeah, maybe game week 9 is what I'm thinking. Sell Bailey or get Aronson. I mean, I would possibly want a Harrison or or Rodrigo, but I understand you might not have enough money for those leads options. I still believe that there are better options. It's a risk. Still not sure about Harrison's potential. Underlyings are okay, but Harrison and Rodrigo definitely look like better options. W- What happens when Bamford returns? Whether one of whether Rodrigo gets benched, whether Harrison gets benched, I don't think so. That's a possibility. But the issue with that price point is that you don't even have a lot of other options to go for. Of course, we started with Neto, Bailey, and all those. Bailey is of course a different price point, but it's just that it's difficult to get players in that price point, and that's why I understand the appeal of a of an Aronson here. But we'll see. We'll see if we have some other options to go for. I mean, you could always go for a Da Silva, but if you're playing this option, then it's actually quite tricky because you can't really rely on a Da Silva. Jensen is there at 5.1, but I mean, yeah, he's done okay. Nothing very spectacular, to be very honest. And in that price bracket, it's very difficult, to be very honest. Aronson is a risk for sure, but I mean, maybe a risk worth taking. I personally won't do it for my team, but I understand the concern of getting in a different player and then trying to play that player in that position, which is quite tricky. I transferred on Saliba today. Have zero point 0.3 million and James in. One free transfer. Two. I don't want to transfer James out. Just sub him. Should I sell Saliba or Trent? Or other two are Nico Williams and Patterson, or what else? So Saliba today is Saliba as a transfer is pretty good. If you transferred in James, I think it's fine. You don't need to take him out because I think he should be back next week. You can just sub him. I don't think so. You need to sell Saliba or Trent. Uh, I mean, you can just. I know it's not ideal to play for 1 week, but I think it's okay. Get more information, get more idea, and then take a call rather than panicking because of the James news, and then scratching your head at the end of the day and not even getting it right, in spite of taking hits, etc. So I think it's fine. Sources tell that Zinchenko might start. I mean, sources were telling that Zinchenko might not start. Uh, I still feel that he starts. But if you're okay, if you don't want to take any chances, any risk, I think Lewis Dunk definitely starts. So that's the answer there. Thoughts on Lucas Paqueta? I mentioned it in the last stream. I think he will be a good addition to the West Ham team. He will get that creativity, which West Ham probably need, considering that they haven't really started the season that great. I mean, something again with West Ham as well looks a bit off, and Antonio, Bowen, players who started really well last season, they are kind of struggling at the moment. Yes, they've signed a lot of new players, and it will take some time for all of them to kind of come on the same level and compete at the highest level. But yeah, I mean, I think it could be a good addition. Who's the best captain, Haaland or Jesus, or Cancelo or Salah? Salah safest, Haaland risky but good potential. Otherwise, Jesus. Order would be Salah, Haaland, Jesus. Just made my transfer. Sorry, James to Cucurella. I know risk for next week, but I mean, yeah, you can always bring him back. But yeah, I just hope it doesn't feel like an additional transfer made. And yeah, let's see. Let's see. He doesn't play this week for sure, but what's gonna happen next week? We'll see. Next week is not very far away as well. I mean, it's just a couple of days off, so we'll definitely get information on James. We'll get idea that is his illness long enough to keep him out this week or game week 6 as well, or can we because if he's out for game week 6 as well, I think that's where the conversation gets very interesting, because now he's had 2 game weeks where he's not played or may not play, and then what do you do? I think that's going to be very interesting. Just may I've read that Danko Cucurella. I mean, Cucurella definitely plays for a much more premium defense, though Dunk is and Brighton have looked really well or really good, much better than what Chelsea is doing. But I think Cucurella definitely has more potential, more upside in terms of points. I think it's Cucurella. Going Gabriel Jesus. I mean, yeah, you can absolutely go Gabriel Jesus. There's nothing wrong with it. Jesus is a good pick. He's a differential option. Uh, Still has potential to do well. May not be as high as a Haaland, but with Haaland again, there's a slight risk in terms of minutes. even if he plays or if he starts, he might not play. I mean, in majority, I mean, major possibilities that he's probably not going to play those 90 minutes. He probably, even if he starts, maybe if Man City is doing really well till halftime, maybe he gets hooked off at 45 minutes as well. We don't know that, but yeah, just because of that fact, I think Jesus looks a little bit more safer. But yeah, he would still be third in my captaincy rankings, with Salah, Haaland, and Jesus being the third. Guys, about 8 or 9 minutes to go. I'll quickly check my team. I think you should check yours too. We'll check the team again. It's James. We're starting James, which is okay. I mean, even if he doesn't start, Pereira is coming from the bench. Captain is Salah. Vice captain is Haaland. Let's make Haaland as our vice captain. Um, Pereira first on the bench. I think that should be okay. We're saving a free transfer. We'll have two free transfers next week, and in case if I don't still feel that I need to do anything with James next week, but if I need to or if I have to, then I have that flexibility of an additional transfer as well. Do let me know your final thoughts. Anything that you want to ask, anything that you want to check, anything that you want to add, which might help the stream. Feel free to add that. Rate your team: Sanchez, Robertson, Trent, Cancelo, Perisic, Pascal Gross, Neto, Salah, Martinelli, Jesus, Haaland. It's a good team. It doesn't have James, so that's okay. Robertson is another player who, yeah, I mean, there's a high chance that he gets benched uh, this week, or maybe again there's another fixture where he gets limited minutes. High chance of that happening. That's probably the only risk, or with Robertson. Perisic again, people are expecting Perisic to start, and a lot of forums have mentioned that he will start, and I think he will start. So I think he should be okay. Pascal Gross, Neto, I think all of them are decent options. Martinelli, and decent team, with the exception of, I think there's a slight risk with Robertson, Perisic, but otherwise pretty good. Maybe I do hate a sound sleep. Let's. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll be really, really interesting to yeah. Uh, Salah to Rodrigo and Rashford. I mean, Rashford is really interesting. Let's see. Let's just hope Rashford gets into some form as well. I mean, for United's sake, I think we need to see that old Rashford back. But yeah, not still very sold on that idea. Thoughts on Zinchenko starting? As far as I feel, I think he's gonna play minutes. He's gonna maybe start. I'm still about 65-70% in favor of him starting. That's what I feel. But I still feel if even if he's on the bench, I think he's gonna get minutes. But in case if you're looking to transfer him out, I mean, there's always that option to go towards a Saliba, for example. Do I play Trippier and have Andres as first sub, or just start Andres? I think I'll start Pereira ahead of Trippier this week. Rate my team as well. Ramsdale, Cucurella, Trent, Cancelo, Perisic. So again, the same issue with Perisic, and I think Cucurella this week is fine. Trent, Cancelo, good options. Rodrigo, I mean, a decent team. Addison is very interesting. I think I still feel he isn't the best Leeds attacker to go for, but I think we might all be wrong at some stage. I mean, there is potential in there. It feels that he could be a decent option, but I just feel right now Harrison and Rodrigo is the better option to go for. A double up on Rodrigo and Harrison is also very interesting because not a lot of teams have that. So I think that's a good thing in a way, but a bad thing at the same time as well, because relying a little bit heavy on the Leeds team, where maybe attacking returns are shared. Of course, you have two players, so they could be shared among those two options. But yeah, I mean, that's something to kind of check, or take a note of. And the Perisic issue, which I feel won't be this week. I still feel he starts, but could be a problem in the upcoming fixtures. Next week, Robertson to 4.5 million defender and Neto Diaz. I mean, yeah, for a -4, I mean, Robertson to 4.5 million defender is absolutely fine. I mean, it's okay. Depends, right? If Robertson is looking. I mean, this week fixture or this game as well, I think will give us more idea. Let's say if he gets benched, there are high chances that he starts for Liverpool next week, and then again you'll be in that dilemma whether you should take him out or not, because next week it's Everton, and Everton again. I know that Klopp hasn't really been shy, or in spite of the game being a derby game, he has made some tough calls, big calls in terms of certain players starting or not. So there are chances that Robertson maybe gets a rest next week. I mean, I think it'll depend on the lineup and if Robertson starts, how he plays, and then possibly take a call. But yeah, I mean, could be an option because we'll also see Diaz and how he's playing. I still feel he's somebody that you should probably look at and go for, and I also possibly would have some idea or some way of getting him in my team, because he could be a problem very very soon for us. Robertson to Fofana can be done next week, would be a steal. I mean, do you think Fofana comes in and starts the first game for Chelsea? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. But yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on it. And at 4.54 million, I think if Chelsea can keep that defense in check, keep the clean sheets in place, I think 4.4. I know that there's not a lot of goal threat or points potential there, so you'd probably be banking on 6 points, and maybe the way Chelsea plays, if it's a very close game and if it's a clean sheet, maybe he gets into the bonus as well. But I think, and yeah, I mean, could be a decent option. But Chelsea has to keep a lot more clean sheets than what they are doing right now, and of course that might happen with him coming in. But yeah, something to definitely look or keep an eye on. 3 minutes, guys. Let's go. Let's. Are you guys excited about the game week? I really am. I know the time is a bit odd in terms of matches, especially here in India, where all the matches are at 12 midnight, and that's not really ideal. James to Nico Williams to fund Da Silva to Gross for a -4. I won't do it. I can bench Nico Williams this week and can afford Perez to James in a different week. Um, I mean, I understand the direction that you'll probably be taking here, but I'll personally still keep James. I think I know that you can possibly get or make that switch from a Perisic to James, but I personally won't do it for a -4. I understand the appeal of a Gross, but yeah, not for a hit. Is Gundogan a good option? I think he is a slightly differential option. Could start this week. A lot of uh, assumptions or expectations on him starting, considering that he didn't in the last game. And yeah, I think he has decent goal threat, and I think there's a chance that he can do well. This week was going so peacefully, and now suddenly James has blown panic. I mean, that's what happened. That's what we like in FPL, right? Unless there's panic just right before the deadline, which happened a lot last season. I mean, what's the fun of playing FPL? And this is where somebody like you or somebody else who's been who's possibly or probably not a casual player anymore, or taking FPL a lot more seriously. I mean, this is where we guys shine. Of course, there could still be a chance or a possibility when a casual player might not make any changes, and we try to insert a lot of logic behind our moves, and we might end up being on the wrong side. That's always a possibility, but that's the fun of it, right? That's the beauty of the game, which we all love at the end of the day. Great, guys. I think it's almost deadline. All the best again. We'll keep it short this time. We've been streaming for the past 2.5 hours. It's been a long stream, but I hope I was able to help you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Of course, there will be content coming up before the game week 6 deadline as well. The deadline stream as well. And yeah, do let me know if you wanna, if you have any more questions. You can always reach out to me on Instagram. You can DM me there, and I'll be happy to help. Gabriel Jesus captain, praying like anything now. Let's just really hope he does well, so that we can have a nice chat next time around. But yeah, all good options. I mean, I'm not saying any of these are bad options. I mean, I know none of maybe not a lot of people are talking about Kane, but Kane could also do well against West Ham. So that's also a direction that not a lot of people are looking at, because Kane, I've hardly seen teams with Kane though. Kane did hurt us or hurt my rank when he scored, but yeah, I mean, really good week in terms of captaincy. Quite open in terms of fixtures as well. Excited about the games. That's deadline, guys. All the best. Have a great week. Thank you so much for sticking around. I really really hope you had a good time. I did have a great time chatting with all of you. There'll be content as I mentioned, and there'll be a deadline stream as well. So I will see you guys very very soon. All the best. Have a great couple of days. Have a great Game Week 5, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Bye bye.